Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the GBYWN Australia podcast. I believe this is episode 82, where I am, last time we had a podcast here, I thought that this would all be in one shot. Little did I realise how much information there would be about the ICWS in 2015. So that almost went 2.5 hours just on, 6 or 7 shows. So here we are with, I believe, part 5 of my interview with last ever ICWS Tag Team Champion with Dan Zeppelin, former UWF Champion, former GBYWN Australian Heavyweight Champion. I'm talking to Australian Backyard Wrestling Hall of Famer Daniel Johnston.
How's it going?
That's pure.
It's ironic, really, that we spent 2.5 hours talking about 6 or 7 shows last time, but most of it, there was very little in the podcast that actually referred to the shows themselves.
Yeah, so we branched off into
several directions. It was all about really
directions.
what was kind of going on, like, at the time of the shows.
Exactly, because I thought that was the more interesting details, DJ.
Well, it always is. You watch something on the WWE Network, you don't want to really hear about, like, how Hulk Hogan won a match. You want to hear about how he politicked this way into getting that booked.
That's the best stuff, man. I love that stuff more than anything. And we still haven't uploaded that episode at the time of this recording. But is there anything you want to say, or any sort of added thoughts that you have about what you said on that interview? Because I do remember you saying to me, was I too harsh, or was I too...
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I want to say is that, like, I was being honest. I was, like, speaking from the heart. But I kind of, upon reflecting, like, some of the wording, the verbiage that I used to describe the situations, I wasn't really happy with. I feel like it'll give, like, a false impression about how I feel about certain issues or people, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And I don't want anyone to think that I, have problems with people, or that am holding grudges, like, just in the heat of the moment, I was thinking back to how I felt at that time that these things were occurring.
I think they will understand that
yeah.
That you're talking from your point of view from the Daniel Johnston of 2015 and how he felt.
Yeah, so
but
as
also
long
reflecting on it.
Yeah, so as long as everyone sort of understands that there's no ill will coming from my end, that's all good. But I just kind of was a bit worried about some of the wording, that people would maybe take offense to it. And if you know me, you know that I don't really care about being offensive if I'm having a joke or something like that. But when it comes to how I actually treat my friends and stuff like that, I don't like to, be an asshole to them. So,
that's okay, DJ. You already offend us with your appearance, so that's more than enough.
Odor.
When you're wearing a fucking robe right now, who are you, Rick Rude?
I'm wearing, I'm wearing currently 2 pairs of track pants with socks that the track pants are tucked into the socks, Ugg boots over that, a t-shirt that's tucked into the track pants, a button-up long-sleeve shirt with a long-sleeve hoodie over that, and then a dressing gown over the top, and the hood from the hoodie is on, and there's a beanie on my head as well, because that's how fucking cold I am. So
ravishing dick pube.
Yes. Except
BJ,
instead of taking things off like Ravishing Rick does, I add more layers on.
Exactly. We're already 4 minutes in, and we haven't mentioned wrestling once so far.
Shall we? We said
should we
Rick
get
Rude
into
a
it?
few times.
Should we get into it?
Yeah.
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 Okay, so I believe where we were last time, we were talking about you forming your tag team with Jack Wallace with 1990 Awesome, you finishing up your tag team with Steel Kemsley. I believe that was at Hard Time.
Yes,
right?
That's correct.
So Steel defeated Jack in a match, and after the match you relinquished Steel from your partnership and said that he had passed the DJ school of wrestling, or whatever it was you said, and then you offered Jack an opportunity to join with you. I'm sure on the last one we did discuss how the idea came about, but I want to do a little refresher here and ask you, why did you want to form a tag team with Jack? Why did you want to end the partnership with Steel?
Well, here's the thing about the whole situation, because I know that you, especially as Booker, you weren't really that keen on it because you wanted to see me and Steel go all the way to the tag team titles.
Yes.
And I would have liked that too, but there was a good reason for me wanting to change and team with Jack, and it wasn't just because I thought it would be fun just to change for the sake of it. So Steel, what people have mentioned before, I don't know if Steel's mentioned it, but while I was actually teamed up with Steel, I was kind of one of the main people behind the scenes that was kind of trying my best to kind of build him up and mold him into a bit of a better performer. And I feel like with a lot of hard work from him, the credit's mostly due to him, but I feel like I helped. I feel like I got him
Definitely.
there. I helped him
you
get
fixed
over.
it. You fixed him because he wasn't doing well, and people were kind of having a bit of a laugh at some of his matches and not really helping, where you were like, this bullshit, I need to get on board here, Carl. Please let me manage him. And at first I wasn't sure about it, but it worked.
Yeah.
And by this point, he was one of the most popular guys on the roster.
And he remained so until the conclusion of the Fed. So, but the thing is, though, at the time, I already felt like Steel didn't really need me anymore. And it's not that I didn't enjoy teaming with Steel and shit, because I love Steel. He's a great guy. I love teaming with him. I really enjoyed the reaction that we were getting. But to be completely honest, and I'm not making it up, I sort of felt like me being with Steel any longer was like me stealing his spotlight, because I'd already had, like, by this point in time, been like one of the veteran quote-unquote people in WA yachting, and I already had kind of that, and I'm not comparing myself as a wrestler to him, but I sort of had a bit of like a Ric Flair aura, where even if I was face or heel, I tended to get a good reaction. Like, people looked forward to seeing my stuff and all that. And I sort of felt like, now that Steel has improved so much and gotten so much more popular, like, I really wanted him to kind of like have an opportunity to enjoy that by himself and not feel like I'm kind of like taking any of that away, because I know that as a team, like, it was fun and all that stuff, but I just wanted to I thought, he doesn't need me. He can be on his own now, and everyone will love him. And if he needs my advice or whatever at any time, he can always just come to me. But on the shows, I feel like it should just be him coming to the ring and getting the pop.
So in hindsight, would you say by that show, it had run its course, you'd done a solid year with him, the project was a success?
It could have kept going, but I felt like it in my mind, it had run its course as far as being like a necessary, like something that we needed to do. Because for a lot of that time that I was with him, it was really he did need me, and then by the end of it, we needed each other. Like, because him being there was also elevating me as well.
Right.
But then simultaneously around that time, even though you wanted me and Steel to go to the titles,
before you get to where you're getting, I will throw this in there. This is what the initial idea was. There was going to be 4 teams feuding over the tag team titles: the Revolutionaries, you and Steel, AAA, who were the champions, and the franchise.
Big Ace, yeah, sick.
So obviously that didn't happen because Clint Marshall, number 1, retired.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Arthur Aries didn't return for 2 years. And basically Jack and Luke wanted to part ways and do something different, which is fair enough. They'd been together for 2 years. So the tag division just kind of dissolved in front of my eyes right then and there, and I was like, I don't know what to fucking do with this division now. And then you came to me and said you wanted to move on from the Steel thing and move in this direction with Jack. So there's me prefacing the situation here, and DJ, take it away.
So, and that's an interesting thing you bring up, because really it's like you had this whole thing that you wanted to do, but then the people actually in the teams all seem to be wanting to go in different directions, because I didn't know that. But I want to try to kind of explain this so that, even just for your benefit, Carl, so that you realize that no matter what ended up happening, there was good reasons behind it. Because I know at first you sort of felt like I had just gotten this idea and I thought it would be fun just to do something different. But that's not really the case, because around the time that I was starting to feel that Steel had outgrown me, like Jack was also, his interest was waning. He
was floundering already.
He was floundering already. He'd lost direction. His interest was waning. Even though he'd always been like one of the originals and a fairly big name, it was getting to the point where people were really laughing at his matches.
Because he had a dreadful match with Kyle at Hard Time, and then at whatever show it was, not Hard Time, whatever shows there were, he had a dreadful match with Kyle, and then he had a really bad match with Steel because there was a puddle of water in the ring and he wouldn't bump. So
right.
He was not doing well.
So
already.
Now you've got this guy that was once, this top name in WCWA, and everyone... He did used to always have a bit of a comedic element to his matches. Like, he would do... there'd be some funny movement with his body that he would do, or some
lock
funny
in the
cell.
Melaleuca cloverleaf or whatever.
And it wouldn't be quite... But you'd enjoy it, but it wouldn't detract from the rest of the match. But then it was getting to the point where I almost began to feel bad for Jack, because it seemed like Jack was being treated the way that Steel was originally, where people were kind of making fun at him and having a laugh at his expense, but not for the right reasons, and no one was trying to see if they could help or what was going on. And then, concurrent to that, his interest was waning, and he'd already lost direction, and he seemed to be losing enthusiasm. So I began to talk to Jack about, what's your problem, man? What's going on? That you're losing.
Because I was furious with him, man.
Yeah.
I was furious with him.
So then, somewhere along those conversations, he started saying all this stuff he liked about my act, and I reckon it'd be so cool if you and me could be a team, and then we started spitballing ideas, and I thought, well, all right, I'm at the point where I don't need to be in the title picture and stuff. I'd be happy to go into a team with Jack and try and do a similar thing with Jack that I did with Steel. Because I wanted Jack to regain his enthusiasm, not only because he's one of the boys and I wanted him to enjoy himself, but also because the ring's at his house and he has a lot of control over the shows and stuff like that, and I wanted him to be enthusiastic about the Fed so that the greater good of the Fed as a whole, things could be more secure
so you saw
and
this
stable.
As a project for yourself.
So I saw it as a project.
Steel was a project, it was a success. Project number 2 now is trying to get Jack back into the fray.
Yeah, project number 2 is trying to get Jack back on board with things, and I was excited about it as well. We were coming up with ideas. I thought, he was like, why don't we do some retro thing, because you love all your 80s stuff, and you always dress in your retro shit, and you dress like you're somebody's dad, and, and then, I thought, this is really... We've got this, hipster kid that wears a fucking bucket hat and goes to all these festivals and drops tablets and shit. And he walks around wearing these, clothes that are... Whatever's in the current fashion, that's what Jack wears, and I'm, the opposite. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if, you had me, who's quite a few years older than Jack, walking around trying to dress like he does. I just thought... And then he said, we'll do the retro thing on top of it. And I thought, this would be fucking great. So we eventually settled on 1990 Awesome for the name. And so really at the beginning when the team formed, it was just us brainstorming ideas. And as we'll get to, for the first bit that the team was going on, I really felt like it was a success. And I think, I remember feeling good. I was like, all right, this will prove to Carl that it was a good idea, the team's over, I'm having fun. Jack's having fun and everyone's liking the act, But as we'll find out, it didn't quite work out that way. Luckily, in the grand scheme of things, Jack did end up, turning things around, but not for a couple of years after this.
Yeah, and we'll get to all this stuff with the with 1990 Awesome and how it kind of panned out in the end. But False Finish, I believe False Finish was the show that Jack had that bad match with Steel.
And that was where I invited him.
Yeah, and he did come out with you for your match with Ryan Tate, and I believe he started working his way into this new jive talking Jack Wallace
that's where
character.
he started. He cut that promo into the camera that was... While, like, I'm getting beaten up in the background.
I remember
like,
back in the day...
cameraman's, he's going, like, we're going straight to the top, daddy. Like,
I sat behind DJ in primary school and I said, that guy's going to be my best friend. And it's like, he's older than
none
you.
of it's true.
Like, so do I.
We are
jive talking
polar opposite people, polar opposite existences, and, like, we're friends, but we were never that close, and we're not close now. And all of a sudden, like, within, like, 20 minutes of me inviting him to be a team with me and him having a horrendous match and, like, being on his knees, like, breaking down after losing this match, he's now got a beer in his hand and, like, obnoxious sunglasses on his head, and he's going, like, we're going straight to the top, like, while he's ignoring me getting beaten up. So he'd already started to kind of, like, get into the idea, you know, because he knew that if he was teamed with me, he would have more latitude to have a bit more fun, because my act was always a bit more comedic.
He needed to have fun, man, because he was really taking a lot of air out of everything he was a part of. Yeah, he just wasn't interested.
But that's the thing, though. Like, when you're having fun doing something, it becomes more fun for other people to watch, and it becomes more fun for the other participants as well, in whatever endeavor it is. Could be anything creative. In this case, it's wrestling.
Being in a band, if you look like you're having fun on stage with your bandmates, everyone in the crowd has fun seeing you have fun.
Like, and me with my TV show, like Carl's band, Jackson Coke. Find it on Facebook, man. Give it a like.
Yeah, cheers, DJ.
Just spell it out so that they know what it is.
JACKSON KOKE.
Yeah,
2 words.
2 words. And my TV show is called Second Hand. That's 2ND. Hand.
The only people listening to this already know about these things, DJ.
Anyways,
the match with Ryan Tate. I remember at the time you were very excited to work with Ryan, and you guys had not wrestled each other since ICWS In Your Yard 2012, and that was Ryan's 4th match, I believe.
Yes.
So all these years later, finally you get to hook it up with Big Red one more time.
And that's an interesting tidbit, because Ryan Tate is one of the few people in WA yarding history that's wrestled both myself and my brother Nick.
And remember, I booked the In Your Yard show, and I specifically booked Ryan to wrestle you then, so that you could help him.
And I remember that first match that we had, I did help him, and I remember people saying that, like, Ryan felt really good about it, and he thanked me after the match for sort of teaching him a couple of things. But by the time that we got to this match, I'd become such a big fan of Ryan that I'm sitting there nervous about, can I, like, keep up with Ryan, because Ryan had become so good. But I was hell keen on the match, and the match was fucking everything that I would want it to be, man. It was fucking hard hitting. We were countering each other. We were doing submissions. Like, we were doing some of my brawling stuff. And it all just felt so seamless, and like it was all just flowing. And I remember being on the outside of the ring. Like, we did this spot where, like, I go to clothesline Ryan on the outside, and he ducks, and I clothesline the ring post. And then immediately he starts giving me these really stiff kicks to the arm. And a couple of times he just didn't really get the arm, and he ended up kicking me, like, in my liver, and these kicks, he fucking hits hard.
Yeah, and you guys belted the fucking shit out of each other.
So I'm loving this match. Everyone's loving this match. I'm getting thrown around by Ryan. Like, I always loved taking the German from Ryan because he has a low center of gravity.
Deadlift German, yeah.
Yeah. So I was coming off a good match with Chris at Thug Life, like the month before. So I was hell pumped about my stuff at the time, and yeah, this was a match I was really looking forward to, and I really think that it was probably like one of the best matches on the show. And one of my favourite matches of all time. It would probably be like in my top 5 favourite matches.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm a huge Ryan Tate fan, and that match was a lot of fun. And I was glad to return the favour to him and like lose the match.
Right on. So. Next show is Bowl of Mixed Nuts.
Love the name.
Immediately, Jack is back in the saddle. He has a great tag match team with Rex Regan against Luke Monet and Antilochus. So, 1990 Awesome are firing on all cylinders.
We have our entrance music. We have our little quote, our catchphrase.
If you're not with us.
It's
get
like
off the bus.
it's like if you're not down with us,
That's it,
get
yeah.
off the bus.
That's it, yeah. And people were loving it.
Yeah,
and
we
I
were
was
wearing the fucking Nike jackets. Would come out.
very happy with it. I was very happy. Bowl of mixed nuts is important in a way because this is the first time that you got to wrestle someone who you've actually become quite good friends with, which is Blade Shaw.
Yeah, so
fuck yeah, I got to fucking say it this
so
time.
yeah,
Fuck you.
I was really excited about wrestling Blade. It wasn't very often that I got to wrestle somebody who was quite a bit physically bigger than myself. And Blade and I had become quite close friends by that time, and
Okay.
and he and I like had a real like fun.
It's a slobber
match.
knocker. It was a
Like we
slobber
really
knocker.
enjoyed the match, and like we're making little jokes to each other as we do the match. Like I was, you know, like he walked up to me at like the show before and just gave me a massive chop, and I was like, oh fuck, it's like a frying pan, like with the Big Show thing. And then he was like, man, I'm going to beat the shit out of you next month. I'm going to give you that Dean Ambrose thing with the chop for. And I was like, fuck off, Blade. You're not going to do that shit. And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll see. And I'm like, yeah, we will see, you fat cunt. Like, that's how the conversation went. So then we're in the match and we're going along and, like, we're both having a lot of fun. We're having a fucking good brawl. And then he just gets me in the corner, and I suddenly realize that he's not letting me out. Not letting me out of the corner, and it's just like, I can't go anywhere because he's like, pushed himself like in real close.
Yeah.
And he just gets like uncomfortably close to my ear, and so I can feel him breathing and go. And he says, Dean Ambrose time, bitch.
So good, Blade.
And I say, fuck you, you fat piece of shit. So he just goes, like, and it hurt.
Yeah,
So he does
remember
it.
a fucking good spot.
So he does that, and then he hits something else, like a sidewalk slam or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm on the ground. And he had also been joking leading up to that he was going to steal my finisher, the senton. And I was thinking, like, oh, he's like, you're going to know what it feels like to have somebody crush your chest cavity, right? I said, like, come on, man, that'd be gimmick infringement. Not that, like, in real life, I wouldn't care whether he stole it or not. I just didn't want him to do a senton on me, like.
I love that he just started using it as a regular move.
So then,
He did it to me.
So, and he reckons he does it as a tribute, like, to me.
And he
It's
did
like,
it
it's
off
my
the first
tribute.
rope onto Angelica.
Yeah, so he's already done, like, a better one than, you know.
What a fucking annoying cunt.
So I'm on the ground and I'm looking up at Blade, and he just stops beating me down, and I was like, oh shit, he's gonna do something.
Yeah.
And then all I see is like, I can see his shadow like going across the mat, and then all I see is this shadow like go upwards. And then the next thing I know, I just see like Blade's wrestling shorts come above me, and then like things just went blank for about 5 seconds because he just jumped up as high as he could and hit like a senton on me, and I was like, oh, you dick. So then he goes to pin me, and while he says it, he's like, how do you like that, you cunt? Like, so
but very good match.
yeah,
and it's
fun
almost,
match.
Almost like it's a small feud going. You know, it's not really a feud.
because we wrestled,
but
it's like a sort of a friendly rivalry,
friendly
like a, yeah.
rivalry between 1990 Awesome and Blade Shaw and Ryan Tate here.
Which I'll
as
actually-
Ryan and Blade's storyline was going on with the love triangle, which was
Which
really cool.
which now that you bring that, I actually want to say that like that little feud that we had with that team, I liked it for a number of reasons. Not only because I just had great matches with both guys and I would get to work with them again, but like little feuds like that, I've always enjoyed smaller little things in wrestling like that are kind of happening on the peripherals of the main storylines.
And you don't really.
Yeah.
It's not like something that's majorly going on in
But
the
it's-
show, but it's in the background.
and
there
it's kind of
happening.
it sort of fleshes out the universe of characters that it like fleshes out everything and makes it seem like a more fully immersive.
And now that I'm thinking about it, bro,
Well-
I'm really proud of the whole fucking storyline that was taking
Yeah,
place. Because
yeah.
you got the Ryan Tate, Blade Shaw, Lila love triangle thing going on there. Dan's involved because Dan was screwed over by Ryan a few shows ago. Esqueleto gets involved. 1990 Awesome are involved over here as well.
Yeah,
so many characters are actually involved in this story, just on the fringe here and there.
To me,
it's creating these situations for Ryan and Blade to fucking hate each other.
And then they ended up being in the final match of WZWA. So if you think about the complexity of Ryan and Blade's feud, they're really like the most epic feud in WA yachting history, if you actually consider all the things that happened, all the twists and turns. So I really enjoyed like our little mini feud that we had there. I thought it was a lot of fun to do. It was really cool, you know, working with Blade especially.
Just for me personally, it's a kick for me to see Blade wrestle any of my boys from ICWS. Because, like, that's two worlds for me. Like, there's the XCW world, there's the ICWS world, and now in WCWA, I get to see them all clash, and to me, that was just, like, so
I'd
much
already
fun.
wrestled Blade at Betrayal. XCW Betrayal.
Yeah, when you were Obi, right?
Yeah, I remember that, actually, because I remember when me and Blade didn't know each other, I would see him walking around Curtin Uni occasionally after I did the Betrayal match with him.
Right.
But we showed up when we were a lot smaller and younger, and like he's just this big guy, and we planned this match with him, and like the only thing that I remember from that match, like at one point Blade just grabs me by the scruff of my shirt, throws me really hard into Eli, like so I headbutt Eli really hard in the stomach. Then it goes blank, and then the next thing I remember is, you know, I'm getting up, I'm thinking, fuck, there's, like, nowhere to land, and we're, like, trying to improvise this match, and then I just see, like, just Blade just going, ah! Like, about to just knock the fuck out of me, you know, like, he just bowls me over. So, no, but, I mean, by the time we had the match at Bowl of Mixed Nuts, and this little feud that we're talking about, it was a lot of fun, because as we have joked about numerous times, like, he and I had become close friends, and he'd obviously improved tons as a wrestler by that point.
He'd come over to your house.
Yeah,
and,
he came over to my
house. You
house
with some booking things.
Helped me with the
there.
booking, and we had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was good. And the crazy thing was, he'd already improved like 10 times over since he'd begun in WZWA by that point, and then like after the point that we did all this that we're talking about, he'd improve another 10 times.
Insurmountably, but I told him he had to step it up because I still had plans for him to win the title
So
at Resolution 4. He needed to be one of the
Blade
best.
just like exponentially continued to grow.
He pushed himself so much.
So yeah, it was nice
Very
to be.
proud of
It was nice to be a part of that, and it was also a lot of fun from the side of me and Jack because we seemed to be gelling together. Like the awkwardness that we had working together almost played into the team. Like it was. We designed it that way. Like, we would cut promos, and then Jack would start saying all this weird shit, and I'd be, like, looking at him going, like, bro, why are you doing a Ric Flair impression? And I'd say that on camera, he'd be like, oh, well, I'm not doing a Ric Flair impression. This is just me.
This is me.
And I'd be like, it's not you, Jack. You change you every month. Like, where's the real you? Like, so that was really... It was all just coming together. Like, I was really happy with my matches that I was having and where the team with Jack was going by that point.
Speaking of it hitting on all cylinders, this at this point, in my opinion, is the height of 1990 Awesome. It's 3 shows into your run together as a team. Well, 4 shows technically.
It was yeah. This would have been
Frostbite is what I'm talking about, where you guys face Blade and Ryan Tate in a tag team match, which basically is the beginning of the story of Ryan turning on Blade after the match and all that stuff. But you guys get the victory over the former tag team champions themselves.
And we did the thing where, like...
Which makes up for you losing to both Blade and Ryan, so you get your win back over those guys.
Yep, and then Blade was, you know, showing the sportsmanship and stuff. And
Ryan didn't like it. And
so...
that ended up with Esqueleto coming out and Dan Zeppelin distracting, and Esqueleto beats Ryan Tate and... gets a date with Lila. So,
but this podcast is about me. So no, I'm kidding. No, but I remember that angle that we did, and I remember actually standing there with Jack and not knowing that the turn between Ryan and Blade was about to happen.
Oh, right.
I was like, this is hectic. Like, we're unwittingly a part of this. Like, just by doing... Like, that's what I really liked about the angle, was that to me is really good booking, where we were just told what our part was, and we didn't get told what their parts were, so our reaction to the situation was genuine reaction. And once again, all of those little details just go into making it that much more entertaining.
I love the bit where Ryan is on the microphone, he's having a go at Blade, and Jack turns to Ryan and says, "Now get out of my ring." I just thought that was fucking tremendous.
And then if you watch that footage back while Blade and Ryan are having their little argument, like it's all come crumbling down for this team, Blade and Ryan.
And you guys are kind of on
it's
the
falling
outskirts
apart,
there.
and we're like in the background, like kind of,
Why haven't you left the ring yet? He's still there.
We're there, like, discussing what we're seeing in front of us while it's happening, like, just chuckling about it, like, making jokes. And I was, like,
tremendous
saying...
Tremendous
I was
stuff.
actually saying to Jack to try to get a rise out of him, like, oh, I wonder if, like, Ryan's dick's actually bigger than Blade's. And, like, so we're just having some fun in the background. But the match itself I felt like it was really good.
It was tremendous.
I felt Jack had kind of turned a corner with his wrestling as well, and that he'd gotten back to being the best he could be.
He had. It was a great match. Some people did say it went a little bit too long, but I didn't mind it so much. I know that you guys still had a few more spots to fill in there, especially with the fucking sumo fight between you and Blade.
I hate to already get a little bit sour, but the only reason why it went a little bit long is because we actually kind of ended up having a bit of a holdover pattern in the match, because the finish of the match was already laid out, but it involved Jack getting into the ring and hitting his finish,
the Crash and Bird,
which would then lead to me coming in, and I don't know, did I get the pin?
I think Jack got the pin on Ryan.
Jack got the pin, right? So Jack was supposed to hit his finish and get the pin.
Nailed, didn't she?
So what happened was Jack actually got tagged in, and we're ready for him to do the finish, and Jack actually tagged in, hit the crash and burn, and then didn't finish the match, and then tagged me back in again.
Right.
So then now the match is continuing so that I can... Because I would come in, and then I'd be getting beaten down, and I'd have to wait for an opportunity to tag Jack back in, and I tag him back in, and then he actually did some more stuff, and then tagged me back in again. So, instead of finishing the match. So that's actually what extended it, because I couldn't just say to him in the middle of the match, "Bro, like, it's meant to be the finish, man. Like, no, I'm not tagging."
Yeah.
So we were just kind of having to go with the flow. And it's not a huge thing, if people think it was a bit too long, that's fine. But I'm actually, in hindsight, I'm glad that it went for a bit of a longer thing, because Blade and Ryan were a pretty established team at that time. They were tag team champions, and it was their last match as a team, so it's kind of good that it was like a real solid,
Agreed.
Good match. All right.
And I think, did Ace get involved as well?
Yes, Ace.
See, so we got another angle going on.
Yeah,
because
Ace ended up attacking me on the outside to set up the match.
I love that every
show.
time you were out there having a match, or you were at ringside or something for Jack's match, Ace comes along and starts beating the fuck out of you, and you brawl to the backstage area again.
It's funny because it felt like it happened for 6 months in a row, but it probably only happened like twice.
Yeah,
but
it just felt like it kept happening.
I remember at the time, but
because that feud had been going since Hard Times.
Yeah, so we might as well get into that now, like the next.
But we didn't really get to have much of a conclusion of that, unfortunately, because no Arthur Aries. You were supposed to wrestle Arthur Aries at some point. I believe you're supposed to wrestle him at Frostbite.
Imagine that match too.
Exactly, and we'll get to that a bit later. But the next show, I would say, is probably the beginning of the downfall of 1990 Awesome.
Yes.
As you were unable to make the show, and obviously I had a bit of an issue with it, and we had a bit of an argument, but it is what it is. And Jack wrestled Big Ace in a singles match, and it was dreadful. And I remember Ryan saying to me afterward, I overheard Jack talking to Ace about the match and said to him, "Let's just hit each other with weapons." And he didn't try to come up with a plan to have a good match with Ace. So I was a bit disappointed in all that stuff. And you weren't there to be at Jack's side or anything, so it wasn't a good show for 1990 Awesome.
Well, I mean, And that's a regrettable thing, because if I had have been there, it probably would have been better.
You might have been able to fix it and help them
but,
plan something.
you know, one thing is, though, like, I've missed very few shows, like, throughout my whole time, and I only skipped that one because I needed to help my brother move, and I wouldn't have skipped it unless I felt like it was an urgent thing. But Nick never asked me for favors that often, and in that instance, he'd, like, begged me. He said, man, I need you to come down, like, I'm freaking out about this, I need you to come and help me. So when it's family and stuff, you kind of think, like, you have to have your priorities in order, and I felt like if I didn't go, I'd be letting him down. So I ended up going.
I think my point of view was mainly because you and I were having issues at the time due to ICWS stuff, and I had felt like I'd made the effort to be at every ICWS show whilst people were bailing on the show and no showing, whereas the date of Hardcore Hell had been set for a while, so I think I got upset over you for a couple of days beforehand saying that you couldn't do it or whatever. But that was just me back then. Now, when I look back, I'm like, you know, it doesn't really matter that much.
Well, I remember, like, the whole reason why we had that little tiff over that, because I felt like, yeah, I was bailing, and I felt terrible about it, but I also, like, called you on the phone, like, 3 days in advance. It wasn't like it just got to the day and I didn't show up, so I thought, like...
But back then, talking to me about that stuff, I wouldn't have been receptive to whatever the reason was. Like, if someone was missing a show, I'd be upset about it. Like, there was no way anyone could avoid me being angry about it. Not at that point, anyway.
Because I remember calling up and being really surprised that you were that annoyed, because I thought, you know, like, Carl and me are pretty close. He knows that I never bail on shows.
I think the main thing was...
I got a pretty good reason, like, and I'm calling in advance. Like, I'm pretty sure that he'll be miffed, but he won't get really that angry.
And
then when you got angry and you, like, hung up on me, I was like, did he just fucking hang up the phone on me? And then it, like then I'm getting hot as well. So, but that's just one of those things, you know, like, at the time...
I know what it was. I was upset because this was the show where I really wanted to kick off that ICWS Legends versus XCW.
Oh, right, and then fucking
but
Nick
then
and
in
stuff...
the end, Nick and John didn't show
They
up
weren't
either.
cooperating either, so...
Like, that was a horrible day for me. Like, I was really... You know what? As soon as Nick and John didn't show up, I no longer had an issue with you not being there. Because I was like, if DJ ended up bailing on that to be here... and then John and Nick didn't even show up to do the matches that they needed to do, then that would make me the asshole for fucking making DJ bail on his brother for people who weren't even going to show the fucking respect that they needed to show by being there. And that fucking hurt me so fucking much that they didn't show up to that event. And I mean, it just wasn't meant to be. Dan was really keen for the feud. I was really keen for the feud. John and Nick were a little bit like
I was keen as well. Like, I remember going, you know, like, because I felt terrible about having to bail. But, like, when I decided to bail, I talked to my mum about it, and she just said, like, well, you know in your heart what you think is the right thing to do, and if Carl gets angry at you, he's just going to get angry at you.
And I wish you wouldn't have discussed stuff with your mum about me. It wasn't
about you. It was like,
ICWS
I remember saying
show,
to
you discussing with her about that stuff. I think that made her not like me anymore.
No, it wasn't like that. It was like me.
Because I still think your mum doesn't like me.
No, she does. She likes you.
Well, for a little while there, I think she had a bit of an issue with me because of you discussing with her.
But once I explained the situation to her, she, like, understood, because she trusts my judgment. So when I explained the situation as it actually happened, because I didn't actually go to her and, like, bitch about you. All I said was, because, you know, I'm close with my mum, and so, like, I was really feeling upset and anxious about having to bail, because I felt like I was between a real rock and a hard place, because Nick was having a lot of mental problems, and I knew something wasn't right if he was actually calling me on the phone and asking me to, like, go up there. Like, I knew it was, like, important. And I said, yeah, you know, like, I just know that Nick needs me, but I also don't want to let Carl down because, you know, he's already got enough problems with other people bailing and shit. And she just said, like, if he gets angry, he gets angry. Sometimes in life, people just have disagreements, but you have to do you can patch things up with Carl later. It'll blow over in a few weeks' time, but you might regret it if you don't go and help your brother. So and she was right. She already knew that that's how I felt, and she was just trying
reiterating.
Yeah. So, but in any case, I did still, while I was helping my brother, I did still feel guilty about the show.
I think
not showing up.
What else I was feeling was that I felt like you didn't give a shit about this storyline because it was my idea.
Oh no, I gave a shit. I cared about it.
Because what my initial idea was me, Nick, and John versus you, Dan, and your brother.
How could you not think I'd be keen on that? I even remember saying to you,
because I guess I felt at the time.
Maybe just a lot of shit with the Fed was going. Maybe a lot of other shit with the Fed was going bad. And because I remember saying to you,
I wanted to get Nick involved finally because he'd been talking about it all year to join us in 2015. So I was like, all right, we got Nick James coming aboard. I want to work with him have him be with you and be with Dan, and it would be a really cool thing. There'll be all these different singles matches. You get to wrestle Nick, you get to wrestle John. Dan would get to wrestle Nick, get to wrestle John, and I get to wrestle your brother. And then it would end in a 6-man tag at Christmas Carnage where the ICWS boys finally get a big win over the XCW boys. And that kind of continues my story with Nick and John. But that's what the idea was.
Yeah, because I remember hearing about the storyline and going, oh, fuck, it sucks that I've had to bail. But I'm really excited to, start the storyline next show.
But then even if they fucked me over.
So then I remember, once we patched up our little tiff over that, you said sorry to me over it. And I said, yeah, sorry again that I couldn't make it, and that was all good. And then you proceeded to, tell me about how they didn't show up and how upset it made you. So then it was fucking hell, because I was excited about that storyline. I was like, shit, man, you mean we were going to have a 6-man and they didn't show up? Fuck. And then it was all right, I remember suggesting, why don't we can skip one of the singles matches and, start the angle at the next show. And you said, no, there's not enough time. Because they haven't shown up, there's just not going to be enough time.
It was because I also felt at the time I needed to do something for me and my... Because Gaston Crude in 2015 was boring. So I needed to come up with something that would completely change the course of where I was headed. And that's where I came up with the hit list that started at Hanukkah Havoc. But before that...
I thought this was way before the hit list thing. I thought this was when you were doing the fucking Revolution thing.
Yeah, that's when the Revolution thing was happening, and the very next show I dropped the Revolution thing, and now I was the hitman.
Because we know the next show is me versus Big Ace.
Phaser.
I'll address the thing with Jack's match with Ace, and then I want to take a little side tour and hear a bit more about that Revolution thing, because...
Okay.
I know that you had the jumpers and stuff like that, and I know that we did this storyline that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about the actual Revolution thing and what the plan was.
All right.
Hang on. So
if you want to discuss.
Yeah. So when I hear Carl just then say that somebody overheard Jack say to Ace, "We'll just hit each other with weapons," that's unfortunate, and that is kind of makes me feel shit for not having been able to be at that show, because Jack's really not the kind of person, and I love you, Jack, but you can't carry someone through a match. So that's kind of... And it would have sucked for Ace to be in that position, because he wasn't at the point where he could have some significant input into how the match went, so he probably just went along. And I reckon that if there was an entry for Jack Wallace in the dictionary, there'd be it would say noun, just hit each other with weapons underneath it. Because that's been his go-to approach so many times when he can't be fucked. And it's disappointing that we never got to see Jack as Mr. 55 Live wrestle Big Ace when Big Ace was going through his fucking renaissance in the final part of WZWA, because I reckon that could have been a real fun David versus Goliath match.
Agreed.
So yeah, let's. It's a podcast about me, but I want to hear about this Revolution thing. What was, take us through your process. What was the time? What was the original long-term plan for the faction? Was it ever supposed to be a serious faction, or was it just a joke that you guys had the jumpers made? Was it outside of this planned storyline that never materialized? Like, what was the goal? Because it seemed like you already had the Elite Alliance, and now it almost felt like it was going to be like an XCW invasion thing, or like a similar to the EPW Forefathers storyline,
Right.
but with XCW guys. So I'm curious. Like, I
Well-
want to hear about that.
Well, like in 2015, I was confused as to where to go with my character as slowly burning into becoming a babyface again.
Yeah,
And I wanted to have fun.
yeah, enjoy it.
And I felt like I would have fun by being side by side with Nick and John. We started a stable called Generation Extreme at the first XCW event. It only lasted 3 shows before we split it off because it just wasn't working for whatever reason. And I wanted to try and do that again because I thought we would have fun together as a 3-man team. And it would give me purpose, it would give them purpose, and it would give them an opportunity to have one more run. Even if it's 6 shows, 7 shows, they'd get to do something and have a proper run instead of just being here
Just,
and there and just
Like a
being
solid
thrown
run
in.
of, a final few serious matches against,
That's all I wanted.
real competitive matches.
Yes, I wanted John to have some really good matches to show everyone that John is really good at what he does. And I
Because
wanted-
he is, he is, but
is.
you only ever saw flashes of it.
Exactly, and with Nick, he had a tremendous 2014. He came 3rd in Yada of the Year in 2014 in a roster of 20-odd people, 29 people. He had done fucking tremendous.
And I remember...
And I wanted one last run out of him, one last run out of John, and for us to be side by side, and then when it ended, they could sail off into the sunset and would say, I had a solid final run in WCWA. I got to do this. John was going to win the World Hardcore title. He was then going to proceed to have XCW hardcore matches, which were going to be just comedy, and it'll be really fun and funny for him. And he could use his entertainment aspect, whilst at the same time we get the opportunity now to see Nick versus Dan again, Nick versus DJ, John versus DJ, John versus Dan for the first time. And also it was going to lead to something with John and Ryan, and Nick was going to end up moving on to doing some stuff with Kyle and all that stuff. So, like, they were going to, like, put over the 2 young guys at the end of it. They were going to, Nick was going to put over Kyle. Nick had already put over Kyle. It must have been someone else. But whoever it was, Nick was going to put over someone. John was going to put over Ryan. Team Revolution would break up after we have a 3-way. And then John and Nick would go. And if they wanted to come back again when the final show took place, they could come back and they could do whatever. But there was just so many ideas about it. John and Nick could have been a tag team and gone for the tag titles. The tag team division was kind of floundering for a while there. But
Imagine Steel Erection versus the Vanderheiden.
yeah, it would have been awesome. But look,
that's a good point you make with Nick having such a great 2014. Like, not to interrupt, but I have to add to it. I think the fact that Nick did have such a great 2014 and became, like, such a part of the family in WCWA, like, makes it all the worse that he fell from grace again, because I remember being even more disappointed than ever when they started, like, not caring again, because, like, earlier on, before he came back for that really good run, it would be like, oh yeah, who cares, he's outgrown wrestling, he only does it just... doesn't take it serious. But then once he started taking it seriously, it like made me feel really disappointed and annoyed that I wouldn't get the chance to wrestle him. Like, by the time that opportunity came around, he'd already like lost enthusiasm again. So
see, I think, and we're going to get back to you in a minute because we're nearly an hour in.
We'll steamroll through some of it.
I think a lot of the issue with Nick and John was that they're trolling in the thread. And not only that, but being at the shows and kind of separating themselves from everyone else and not being one of the boys.
So that they can just
I think whenever they did anything in WCWA, as performing-wise, people didn't care as much anymore because the novelty of these legends, in quotation marks, the novelty had worn off now, and now they had to try and find a way to become one of the boys and be a part of the roster, but they were pushing us back at arm's length the whole time with that stuff, and also the constant fucking trolling in the thread when it wasn't funny anymore. It had not been funny for a long time.
After a while,
it's done, guys. You've done it to death now. You're pushing everyone to the side because they don't get your humour, they don't get where you're coming from, and every time you come out and perform now, they think you're just taking the piss and not taking it seriously. You missed a show that you promised Carl that you'd be at. I got upset. I mentioned on the microphone why I was upset. They took exception to the fact that I mentioned anything on the microphone about it and thought, oh, look at Carl trying to cut a shoot promo. No, I just wanted to explain why I was upset and why I was laying down for Dan Zepp to win the World Hardcore title.
And it affects, because that was the same show that I wasn't at as well, like where you got hot, but... The thing is, as well, when they did that stuff and it upsets you, it affects everybody else.
Because they see me be upset because of them, and they think less of them now.
Because if you're, like, you know, in a bad mood as well, it can affect, like, the rest of the whole show as well. Because it's like, I know for me, as one of your close friends, like one of your besties, that it fucking makes me feel shit when I'm at a show and I don't see you enjoying the show.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it for a long time.
So Nick and John are kind of like separating themselves in the audience. They're pulling a Stadler and Waldorf where they want to just kind of sit there and make comments. So then when they do shit in the ring, everyone thinks that they're still kind of just taking the piss out of them. Like that they're kind of just parodying... the yarding.
And they'll never understand this point of view either.
Because
I love them to death, but they'll never understand.
Because they were kind of like putting a wall up around themselves, the jokes fell flat. Like the ideas behind what they were doing were falling flat because no one was in on the joke. No one was in on it because they weren't talking to anyone and being friendly with anyone. It was us at their expense all the time. So we were like watching it and going, well, I just don't get it. Like, it was only funny to them, similar to the trolling on Facebook. And then that, in turn, that lack of reaction is probably fueling their lack of enthusiasm even more. So then they're trying less and less each time. We're enjoying it less and less each time, and it's all a vicious cycle. But now that we've discussed that, let's get back to it. So it's me versus Phaser next.
So we get to Hanukkah Havoc.
Yep.
Phaser is coming back into the fold now. He had been gone for a few months. He had a knee injury from football, but he said he was ready to come back and he'd like to have a couple more matches. I'm like, sweet. Here's an opening. Daniel Johnston versus Phaser. First, if Phaser's wrestling, he's wrestling someone he's never wrestled before. That's my only thought process. This had no build-up, nothing, but it was an opportunity for you to wrestle him, and fuck yes, what a sick match.
Yeah, man, I'm not even going to...
around like a rag doll.
I'm going to try to get through the next few shows quickly so that we don't spend too much time, because I know
it is midnight now.
There'll be other topics that we want to delve into a bit more as well. So, but the match with Phaser was really fucking good. He's a great guy. I really like Zach. I think that if he wanted to be a professional wrestler, he could be one of the best professional wrestlers in the country.
He'd be fucking great.
He'd be an elite level professional wrestler. He's an amazing and talented natural athlete. He's an amazing promo.
Can you imagine how much Jim Ross would fucking come over? Oh, this all-American Phaser.
Just the size of him, the look of him, the way he carried himself. And wrestling him was so much fun. With my limitations, I don't get to be thrown around that often and take bumps. But Phaser's a guy who could pick me up and throw me around like a toddler, and I felt safe when he was doing it. So people are coming up to me and saying, fuck, that was a great match. Like, I'm using my cunning and my wild to try and get the big guy down, and he's just throwing me around, and I'm taking these hectic bumps. So, yeah, great match. Really loved it. I remember feeling fucking great about the match afterwards, and even though things with 1990 Awesome were sort of on the rocks, like, wrestling-wise, for my own personal performance, after that match with Phaser, I was feeling fucking good. Like, especially coming off a show that I didn't attend.
And I think I was still annoyed at you. That's why Phaser went over.
Well, either way, I didn't mind him going over anyway.
Because he's fucking tremendous.
I never care about winning or losing anyway, but, I would have been happy to lose to him.
I don't know what Jack did at Hanukkah Havoc. I can't remember.
No, I don't know. But I do know that things were kind of...
Things weren't working
slipping
as
a little bit,
at this point.
And I will say, at the outset, it was because of Jack that this thing didn't work. Because I was trying really hard. Because I'm saying to Jack on Messenger and shit, I stuck my neck out for you to get this thing going. Like, I jeopardized a great thing that I already had going to start this thing and help you, and now you're losing your enthusiasm again, and it's reflecting badly on me. Like, nobody was saying my performances were still good, and I was still getting like compliments for that. But the team side of it, it's like, it sucks when you're part of an act and you're trying really hard, but it's not working.
I felt like he had just lost interest already. It had only been, what, four
shows? 4 shows, and then
you'd been
something in
together,
his
and then
personal
just-
life had fucked it up.
Just like that. Just
Some
boom.
shit in his life outside of wrestling had ruined it again, and now, like, we were paying the consequences as a Fed again, and I'm paying the consequences because I'm stuck with him in a team.
And I'm like, fuck, DJ, I thought you'd be able to keep him invested, but there's nothing...
And
that,
I kept on trying to...
If
I
you
said,
can't do it, then
yeah,
no one can.
I said, Carl, like, I'm on Messenger, I'm talking to him all the time. I'm I was trying really hard, but
I think
after,
David said to you, could you please call him and talk to him?
I did call him, and he seemed receptive in the phone call, but then you get to the next show, and it's just more of the same.
Changed again.
So, next show then.
We got to Christmas Carnage, and I'm sure you probably weren't happy to hear that you weren't going to have an actual match, you're just going to be in the Battle Royal. But the idea was to turn the Battle Royal into 1990 Awesome versus Steel Erection, and it's just you two teams fighting in there for quite some time, so it's almost like a match.
And I do remember really enjoying that last part of the Battle Royal. It was like wild, it was an improvised thing. I don't really remember how Jack's performance was, but I remember...
He didn't seem to do too bad. He ended up winning the Battle Royal. I just wanted to give him something to fucking be motivated by.
I remember, I do remember that thing with us being the Final Four, getting me really excited for the tag team match at the following show. And I remember feeling like really good about the Steel Erection as well. I was like, well, alright, at least I can be glad knowing that Steel has continued to get better and that he didn't have to drop back down after separating from me. So my instincts were right that he didn't need me anymore.
But what I want to... Is the word preface or preface? Preface?
I
want to preface...
Yeah, that is
Christmas
the right.
Carnage.
That is the right word. Yeah.
Okay, I want to preface it. 4:30 in the morning, Jack posted in the thread, and I've went over this in Ryan's podcast and Kale. 4:30 in the morning, something personal happened last night. The show might not be able to happen. I read it at 8 a.m. and I hate repeating it. I've repeated it so many times. 8 a.m. I read it. I'm in my car at 8:10 and I'm messaging Blade. Blade, be ready. I'm picking you up and I'm driving you to Jack's house to drop you off there. I fucking stormed down the freeway. I picked Blade up. I drop him off at Jack's. I knew that I needed to get someone there before Jack woke up, before he could go on the thread and cancel the show. Because he had a festival to go to later that day, and he'd had a late night out, and he wanted to sleep in. So he was trying to fucking dictate the show. When Zibby was having his retirement match, where Alex was making a surprise return, we had a Battlefield Brawl match, Ryan was going on holiday to Tasmania for 3 weeks afterward, Zibby was moving to Texas in fucking before New Year's Eve. This show needed to happen on that date, and people were en route to the fucking show by the time that I was on the way to fucking pick Blade up, which was like Mitch and the Circus Boys.
Yeah. So that happens.
So this is happening, and I'm fucking furious with him. And luckily the show's going ahead. But I just want to set the scene here. This is all going on behind the scenes, and he's your tag partner. How are you feeling when you get a message in the morning saying, no matter what he's just said in the thread, everyone go to the arena now, let's ignore what he said, we're going there and we're having this show today?
I'm thinking, like, this is going to drag down my performance. There's no way that this does not drag down the audience reaction to what I'm doing, because
everyone's angry at him.
Jack might, and no, but not even only that. Let's say that by and large, the majority of the roster probably laughed it off and said it's just Jack being a cunt, we're all here, so who cares? Jack not being in the mood to do the show and probably being pissed off that the show ended up happening anyway and nobody, took him seriously when he tried to cancel it. That's going to be reflected in how, how well he performs for our part of the show. And that's going to rub off on me. There's nothing that I can do to not be negatively affected by what is happening with Jack outside of just completely trying to ignore Jack, but you can't really do that because we're like a team, so it's a 50-50 thing. I need Jack to be a part of the act in order to carry out the storylines that I've been asked to carry out. Because at that time, the storylines could only be done with me and Jack as a team, because that's how they were booked.
Yeah.
Right, so it's like kind of I don't know, most people listening probably aren't hardcore wrestling fans, but it's like when Kenny King ditched Ring of Honor to go to TNA and left Rhett Titus, his tag team partner, high and dry, and they had to vacate the tag titles because he did a fucking bum deal and decided to go to TNA.
Mm-hmm.
And so his partner suffered for it. Obviously, it's not as dramatic as that because they do wrestling as a profession, and they're on TV and shit, but you get the idea,
it's
right?
It's in the same ballpark.
I was going to suffer because of what was happening with him. So then we get to the match, and it's me and Jack versus Steel Erection.
Well, the Battle Royal.
The Battle Royal, sorry.
Actually, before we even got to the Battle Royal, we had the debate.
Right, the debate. Okay, so I remember going out and buying, dress slacks, and, I wore a suit to the debate, and it was a really crappy, tacky-looking suit, which I thought added to it. And I drew this, oil pastel photo of, an arse with a communist star on it, which I presented to Rex. So me and Chris, no offense to Steele, but he can't really talk for shit, and Jack can't really talk for shit either.
So it was mainly you and Rex.
So me and Rex were just it's pretty much just going to be us doing the debate. And we were pretty happy with it afterwards.
You did very well.
We thought it went well. And
but I need to give you some context of how I was feeling at the time towards you.
Oh God, here we go. I thought that things were good at this point between us.
Now that I'm thinking of that, you made this fucking picture and all this stuff. You had thought of things beforehand, but I felt like you didn't care about this idea of the debate of the feud with Steel Erection, because you came up to me on the day and you said, I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, how many times have I told you this is what's happening? We're having a debate between you and them over who's the better tag team.
When I said that it was that, what I would have meant, because obviously I knew that the debate was happening, because
But I felt like you kept forgetting what was going on because you weren't thinking about it.
Because I remember thinking, okay, there's a debate that's going to happen, but how is this different from a regular promo segment? Is there something that I'm missing? What does he mean by a debate? It was gotcha. That. I was like, is there some special format that we're doing?
Because I was taking it as that you weren't even thinking twice about the fact that I had this idea for the debate.
I sat there and drew the picture, and I bought a suit for it. Obviously, I was, invested in it.
Well, I must have been just being short-sighted at the time and just thinking, DJ doesn't give a shit about my ideas. He only wants to do things that are his ideas.
Not true, right?
Right.
So we do the debate, and I feel like that goes well. The Battle Royal happens. The Final Four thing happens. I feel like that goes well. Jack ends up winning. So at this point, I'm kind of feeling, all right, things aren't too bad here.
Things are okay.
Things are going all right. It seems like the train's back on the tracks.
Do you want to respond to the big thing that went on in this match of Steele doing the dive and you not catching him?
Yeah, I will.
That ended up winning him the Brian Lowe medal.
Yeah. It's really very difficult to sort of think about, because on one hand you've got people that will say, well, it's my job to catch him and I didn't manage to catch him, so it's on me that the dive was fucked up. Then there's the other school of thought where I'm in position and then I'm not able to move quickly enough to change where I am on the outside to catch Steele, because I'm just not that fast. He comes over the ropes, and as I'm standing there, I begin to realize once he's already in the air that he's kind of off to the side of me. He's not coming straight at me. So then when it happens, I end up only just barely catching him, And, like, thank God that he didn't get hurt. You know, I know that everyone likes to have a laugh about it, but for me, the reason why I was getting defensive when people would make jokes about me not catching him is because if my friend had have broken his neck or something, like...
And he very well could have, because he fucking landed on his head on the outside. I can't believe he hasn't killed himself, you know?
Like, how do you think that would make me feel? So, you know, while I was defensive about it, I would say that is probably like 50% both of our responsibility. I do feel like if I had been able to move a bit quicker and get in position, I could have made the landing a bit nicer for him. And I feel like you know, it was just a bit of miscommunication because it all happened very fast. It was like, all right, do your dive, and then next thing you know, we're doing it, you know, and there wasn't a lot of like... So, yeah, I accept that I didn't catch him as best as I could, and, you know, like, I haven't made a lot of mistakes like that, I'm proud to say, and, you know, but mistakes do happen, so...
Right, that's
I'm
cool.
just glad he didn't get hurt, you know?
Me too. Line in the Sand is the next show, DJ.
Yep.
You wrestle Steel in your first match against each other since Resolution 3. Match doesn't go very long. Very short match, Steel gets the victory.
Yep.
Any reasoning behind the quick match? Were you just not capable of continuing further along? Because I was expecting this to be just as epic as the Resolution 3 match.
I don't know, man. I'd have to, like, see the recap of it. Like, I'll pull it up and watch it on mute while we're talking here. Because I want to actually answer this question properly and give a bit of context to it. So I'm going to have a look.
Alright, well,
so you feel like we can continue talking, like, while...
Well, I felt like the match ended soon after it began. I think it only went like 4 or 5 minutes, like, or something like that. Still got the clean win over you, and I was like, you know, what the fuck is going on here? I was expecting like another classic between you two, and it just felt like we didn't get that day.
So, I mean, one of my flaws as a wrestler is if I'm in a real bad place mentally... There are times where, okay, so the match is coming up first, alright. There are times where I might not be able to perform to the fullest of my ability if I'm feeling fucked, but now that I'm looking at it, alright. So I'd started to put on quite a bit of weight. Okay, yeah, nice little arm drag there. Famouser. Alright, so it doesn't look like we're having a bad match. Just that it's short. So if I had to answer why I think that it's short, I would probably say that I was unfit and I just would have gotten gassed. Although I do remember having a conversation with Steele where the two of us said, see, this isn't that bad, like, we're having a decent match.
It's okay, but it's just the length of the match was really short.
Yeah.
And that was, my only issue was that I wanted, like, a nice, at least 10, 12-minute match.
Yeah.
But we only got, like a 4 or 5 minute match. I mean, this is probably a lot of stuff going on in a small amount of time, but...
Yeah, I mean, it looks like... But you know, it's one of those things, because... I do also remember having... Here we go.
Like,
it's
boom,
really,
like you would think that there'd be a bit more, you'd think there'd be a senton, you'd think there'd be a Northern Lariat attempt, you'd think there'd be the swinging neck breaker, but there wasn't much that was done on your side of things. Yeah,
so I can understand that. I probably would say that at the time, because I was gaining weight, I was becoming more and more gassed in the matches. You know, I was a smoker by that point. Like, I just wasn't taking the best care of myself, and I really, even when things are going really well, because of my cerebral palsy and stuff, I struggle sometimes to get past like 7 minutes in a match. Like, I just try and do as much shit as I can and make it entertaining, and then when I feel like I can't go on anymore, I'd stop. You know, when I have my long, really epic matches that I'm known for, that's like when you get that adrenaline going and you just can push yourself, but this was not one of those shows. And so I've admitted that, so this next part's not to make any excuses for it, but I also remember saying to Steele, we're not going to top the match we had at Resolution. We haven't had the time like to plan this one out, so we'll keep it pretty short. And like, wouldn't it be interesting if, like, you got like kind of a surprise, like quick win over me. And I do remember saying that if he wins in a relatively quick amount of time, it will shock people because they'll be like, oh. And then in my mind, I was like, well, this will show how much Steel's improved. Like, Steel's on fire right now, and things have passed me by. Like, I'm not in my prime anymore, and he is in his prime. So that's why he's beating me that quickly.
Right.
So that's how I thought about it. But it was also probably a fitness thing as well, that it went short. Usually if I have a really quick match like that, it's because
of a certain reason. Yeah. Before we get to Resolution 4, I want to talk about something called lack of motivation. Seemed like something was going on with you at the time where you just didn't seem like you were that interested at this point. Yeah. I don't know if it was because you felt 1990 Awesome wasn't going well, but I do remember Chaos saying to me at some point, yeah, DJ almost bailed on Resolution like the day before. He said that like he didn't really feel like going. What was that feel? How did that feeling take place, and why did that happen to you?
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, it was the first and only time that I'd ever not been motivated to do backyard wrestling,
Especially if it's Resolution as well.
Especially for Resolution, but I think at the time I was so demoralized and demotivated that it didn't matter to me if it was Resolution. It just was like I don't. I just wasn't feeling it. It just wasn't vibing for me. And,
you know what was wrong?
But, well, that time, man, because, it's been documented that I've had, like, my mental health issues and really bad anxiety, really bad depression, problems with overeating, problems with my weight. And, because I've always been open about this and talked about it on previous podcasts because I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. And, at this time in my life, I was fucking really, really struggling with my with all that stuff. My depression was at its worst. My anxiety was really getting bad again. I was smoking a lot of marijuana at the time, which was making me paranoid.
I think that's what I remember was like, fuck, DJ needs to stop smoking so much pot.
But I remember
I felt like it was attributing to a lot of your feelings.
It wasn't a lot of it, though, because I already had really bad problems, and it was
just
making it worse.
Yeah.
So all of these things were really... And then at the same time, I'm sitting there going, well, like, Carl and me used to be so close, now he seems to be pissed off at me. Jack doesn't seem to be fucking enthusiastic about the team anymore, and I feel like I'm being wasted, like, in this team now. And it's going to make me look shit to Carl and get me in the shit even more because he's going to be like, I told you so. I told you that you should have stayed in the team with Steel.
Yeah.
So all of this shit is happening, and I'm kind of thinking that, why bother anymore? Like, for the first time ever, I was just like, why fucking bother? And I've never felt that way before or since, which is just illustrates like how bad things were really getting.
Yeah.
But thankfully, by Resolution, like things were back on track after that Resolution
Things
match.
got sorted out. It was a really good match, actually. We'll get to that now. Resolution 4, Steel Erection versus 1990 Awesome for the tag titles. As I've always said, this was kind of like the end of an era for WCWA tag team wrestling. We had a tough 2015 with tag team wrestling, with a lot of teams splitting up or parting ways, or people
2015
just retiring.
was really a bit of a fucked year when you think about it.
It really was.
2015
was tough.
Probably like the worst year.
It was. It was a
not
really
that
tough
it was
year.
bad, but it was
one
probably
show every 2 months.
Probably
a lot
the
of people
that
retiring, having to rebuild the federation. That was at a
people's
height of Resolution 3. I mean, that was huge.
Just having this podcast and it's centered around my career, but like really from all these discussions, man, like by and large across the board, you've got people's personal lives getting in the way, people going on holidays, people leaving, people losing motivation, people fucking storylines not coming together, teams splitting up at a seemingly inopportune time, one show every 2 months. I'm fucking... Also, the reason I was losing motivation was because of ICWS, which was covered in the other podcast.
Yeah.
That was happening, and I'm feeling like I've let everyone down because I was trying to do this great thing, and it didn't end up working out. Jesus, it seemed like a lot of people on the roster was really having a fucking tough time.
Unless you're like Ryan Tate, who loves it all the time. I'm sure Mitch was having some issues. You know, everyone was having something going on here and there. I mean, Ice couldn't even wrestle at Resolution 4 due to his injury and stuff.
It's really a shame that we've had that year because, as you and I have
it was
both
just a year of rebuilding,
before,
and unfortunately, because of one show every 2 months,
it was a transitional.
The rebuilding took
it was
longer.
A transitional period, and I think it's ironic, really, that backyard wrestling helped a lot of us. And I know for me personally, it got me through high school and stuff. It's one of those things where it was always one of those things where you could put aside everything else that was in your life that was going on and just enjoy the wrestling, but. It was, I think, because of all the stuff that was going on with Jack and the one show every 2 months, it was just, there was too much time in between shows where the Brotherhood was kind of splintering a bit, you know, and everyone was kind of having too much time to themselves and not enough time remembering why
it's the year where everyone, a lot of people had become young adults and... they're doing different things with their lives, and, you know, we're still trying to hold on to this thing that's near and dear to us, but it's slowly slipping away, and that's why I ended up saying to Jack, I think maybe Resolution 5 should be the last show. Mm. And I don't think it was too long after Resolution 4 where I announced that this would be the last year of WCWA. But anyway, look, back to this match against Steel Erection. Look, a few shows before that, I had been talking to Jack, trying to figure out what the fuck do you want to do? And then I was like, this is an idea. We can get you with Antilochus and Luke Monet. We can do this original stable that we've been talking about for 2 years. So he was excited for Resolution 4 because he knew he was turning on you. And he knew he was turning heel and going to be in the spotlight and do this thing with Monet and Antilochus. What did you think when you found out that Jack would be turning on you in the tag title match?
Relief that I would get an opportunity to do something else, go back onto my own and really like rebuild myself back up and hopefully find my fire again for yarding. Trepidation because I knew that there would be a feud with Jack, and we'll get into it, but my fears were well founded, it seems like. But I was worried about having to work with Jack because one of the reasons I liked being in a team with him was that I wouldn't have to worry about wrestling him. But the match itself, I really enjoyed it. You know, it was just, you know how I feel about wrestling against Chris. Like, we've had our series, it's always great wrestling him. He always brings an energy and a chaos and a violence to the match that I love. Steel, I've had 2 matches with him before this. Both of them were great. I won one, he won one. So, yeah, this match was a lot of fun. I think the audience really loved it. I was really enjoying getting to wrestle that stiff, hard-hitting style against Chris, and then the more lighter, like, you know, style against Steel. It was just a fun match. I loved the
match. I really loved it, but I hate looking back and thinking of the fucking power play that Jack played with me, because he's got the ring and it's at his house, and I'm not going to be losing at a Resolution ever. I'm going undefeated, so the finish of this match will not see me turn on DJ and DJ get pinned by the tag champs who are in their first title defense. No. It's just going to happen, and then they'll have to lose by count out or something, because my Resolution winning streak will be continuing.
It's so silly.
So that's what pisses me off. I'm like, surely it makes sense for Jack to turn on DJ, cost the match, Steel Erection retain the tag titles.
If he's turning on me, it means that he's forfeiting the match. It doesn't. Technically, in the record books, it would make it a loss.
To him, it meant a lot to him.
If he's choosing to turn on me, then hasn't really lost anything.
Yeah, and having these discussions with him was a fucking pain in the ass, man.
Can I go?
You can, yes, but I'll just I'll smoke this first.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna go for a piss. So, So the match was great. It renewed my enthusiasm for backyard wrestling. So much so that even when things with the feud with Jack weren't going how I wanted, it still didn't sour my enthusiasm again. It just made me motivated to like, all right, once I get past these matches, things will be good again. I'll like this one match.
But the turn, I want to ask you about the turn,
Right.
and the beatdown that you took from the originals. I felt like when I was watching it, this is a little bit too stiff. Did you feel like that at the time? The chair shot to your head was a little bit much, and
you know what? I'm quite a like hard hitting wrestler myself, so I don't really. I do remember thinking, like...
I thought, Jack's taking out his frustrations or whatever's going on in his life right now on DJ, who is expecting him to protect him, and I felt that you were just being hit too hard.
Yeah, I do remember thinking, like, fuck,
He's
I'm
swinging that chair.
I'm supposed to let this guy,
you.
hit me, does he know how to do a proper chair shot? Like, but you know what, I'm glad that it didn't look shit, though. At least everyone popped and he hit hard. But you can see me putting my hand up, but that doesn't matter because if you're going to get hit in the head, you've got to
put your hand up, yeah.
But, the chair shot looked good, everyone popped. It actually didn't hurt that much because my hand was protected me, so... But the beatdown that the originals gave me afterwards was fucking pretty stiff.
You could tell that you weren't enjoying it.
Antilochus was, like, stomping the crap out of me, and it's ironic because, like, Jacob's a good mate of mine, but I remember after our British rules match, he was like, oh, fuck, bro, you hit too hard, man. You gotta not hit so much.
No, he dishes it out.
And then every time I've fucking ever wrestled him, man, it's like getting fucking stomped by a bovine or something like that. He's just getting this, like, the bottom of this sneaker, like, all over my body. Like, it hurt.
All right.
But I don't mind it. It's not like I was injured. It was just a bit of tough.
I just wanted to raise that concern with you. But go and have a wee, and I will talk about something while you're doing a wee.
Yeah, it was alright, though.
Resolution 4, there is a very, very good friend of Daniel's who comes aboard, joins the roster, and that man is none other than sadistic Vincent Graves.
Pure.
Vincent Graves joins the roster. He has this match at Resolution 4. Basically this match started off being... It was supposed to be Phaser versus Hydro. Then it was supposed to be Hydro in a gauntlet match. Hydro could no longer make the show, so then it became Vincent Graves versus these guys in a gauntlet match just because at the last second Gareth said he wanted to be on the show. So what we got was the Mexicraps making their Resolution debut. They lose to Vincent Graves. Then all of a sudden, Mojo Flow comes out second. Vincent Graves pins him. And a great debut that I would say for sadistic Vincent Graves, who had been very impressive in ICWS in 2015. And it was fucking about time that he came into the fray. I'll just say that. So I'd like to know how you felt about seeing your friend Vincent get on board.
Well, I mean, first of all...
Let's make it quick, too.
For anyone playing at home, you can hear the full story about Vincent's return to wrestling in the previous edition of this podcast, Part 4, the ICWS one.
Right.
But yeah, him coming to WZWA, I was, of course, ecstatic. Obviously, WZWA, one of my favourite things to do, one of my favourite places to be. One of the few times where all the friends and all my best friends were all together, and then to add one of my other lifelong best friends into that and have him in that environment was awesome. And then, as we've seen, with him being, quite good mates with Jacob and a few others, like everyone obviously loved having him there, and I think him being a part of the crowds just added something great to it.
It was good to have him there, and as the year would go on with him, I guess I felt frustrated that I couldn't give him what I think he might have needed, because he needed to just fill in here and there because we had already booked the year and it was hard adding another person to the fray. But I think we did well in the end with him. That being said, great debut for him. Next show, Great American Gash.
I'm not even going to... I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not even going to say that much. It was a shit match.
No, let me
All right, you can have your piece, okay? But I'm not going to...
I felt like as soon as Jack found out that he'd have to have a feud with you because he turned on you, he realized it's just going to be the same old shit. I don't know what he thought was going to happen once he joined the originals. I don't know what he thought was going to happen. But he had to complete a feud with you because he had so brutally attacked you, and DJ needs to get his comeuppance at some point. I wanted you to win at Great American Gash.
I wanted to win too.
Jack said no. I just turned heel, I shouldn't be losing straight away, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was important that you win the match because I knew what was coming with War Games and all that stuff. I wanted you to get your comeuppance against him, at least at that point. So once again, he fucking politics behind the scenes to change a finish, and the match itself was not good, DJ.
In the interest of moving through the next 4 or 5 shows within the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be brief. So, first of all, it was offensive to me that Jack, who I set out on this whole tag team endeavor with to help, would be annoyed that he has to feud with me. So, fuck him for having that attitude at that time, even though he's my mate and I love him. Secondly, I should have been able to win that match, in my opinion, because, yeah, he just turned heel, but he also beat the ever-loving shit out of me at the last show, at the biggest show of the year, and I'm sitting there thinking, when's it going to be my turn to get my heat back?
Yeah.
And third of all, the match was crap because Jack didn't want to plan anything beforehand, and then during the match, he didn't want to fucking follow any of my instructions. He kept on doing shit without telling me that he was going to do it, so my bumping's shit and my timing's looking crap. And he fucking tried to arm drag me off the second rope when I wasn't prepared for it and don't know how to take those kind of bumps, and injured my shoulder to the point where I couldn't get dressed properly for the next week and a half. That's all I got to say about that. It was just shit.
You got anything to say about him refusing to lose to you?
It's just fucking bullshit, man. It's only yarding. Who cares? Whatever. I'm not even going to go into it. I want to move through with the next.
Hard Time 5. You get to wrestle your friend Vincent Grace for the first time in WCWA. I'm positive that you wrestled him in UWF back in the day.
Yes.
But I felt it was important to get you to work with Vincent very soon after his debut to help him kind of get back into the swing of things as a character and as a performer. I know he didn't have a very good match with Jacob at Great American Gash. Jacob wasn't very happy with it anyway, but that's just because there was a bit of miscommunication between the two. Well, how did you feel working with your friend for the first time? In WCW?
We wrestled for 2 consecutive shows. Both matches are great. I really enjoyed them both. This one, though, Gareth was a little reticent, having never had a proper match of this magnitude, and we had to actually... We lived together at the time, so we planned the whole thing out in our apartment before the day. And then, it was really a lot of fun to do, because obviously we're lifelong best mates, and it was awesome. Gareth felt great after the match. All the spots got pulled off well. The crowd popped for it. They seemed to like it, and I'm sitting there thinking, great, I'm so glad that Gareth's enjoying it.
But you know what? When I saw that first match, I was like, I need to see a second one because I need to see a progression. I need to see something else from them as well. I liked the first match, but I wanted to see another one, and I want to see a little bit more. But we'll get to that in a minute, because at Autumn Brawl, it's War Games. And I had said to you, look, man, the first portion of WCWA, you're going to be in the spotlight here. You're going to have Team Johnston take on Team Originals plus Ryan Tate. So it was you, Phoenix, Steel Erection, taking on Jack Wallace, Luke Monet, Antilochus, and Ryan Tate in the final War Games match. A match that is a nominee for Match of the Year. I thought it was the best War Games that we've had since the first one with the Elite Alliance and the Rebellion. What did you think of the match? How hard was it to organise that match? Because as Ryan said in his podcast, it was a little bit difficult with the addition of Phoenix.
It was difficult. Obviously, I was ecstatic to be in a main event spot. I was really excited. I was taking it heaps serious. By the time we got to that War Games match, I'd dropped a bunch of weight. I'd fucking really improved things. I was smoking a lot less weed, thankfully. I was really excited because I was getting to shepherd Gareth and teach him what I knew, and I was just so pumped. And the match was a bit difficult because of Phoenix. Loved Phoenix to death. Had a great experience wrestling him at the final ICWS show. But in this case, he had only just come back and he was really revved up and coming up with all these crazy ideas. And it was almost like when I write one of my screenplays, you got to go through several different drafts before you get to the final one. With Phoenix, it's like that. He'll keep coming back to you with several different drafts of like what he wants to do in the match, and you've got to keep going no until it gets to some point where everyone's happy with it. But we got there in the end, and Phoenix was happy with it, and yeah, it was difficult in the lead up to it, and there was some concern on like, I know me and Ryan were concerned because there was a lot of people in the match, and I'm not the kind that likes to go ahead and plan a lot of stuff. And I didn't want to have like a long-winded Facebook message with everyone planning spots. I was just like, look, guys, you guys plan your spots amongst yourselves for those of you that want to plan. For my stuff, we're going to have a meeting on the day and we'll talk it out. That's what ended up happening. We had a meeting, and as a result, everything was fresh in our minds. I think the match went fantastically. I know a lot of people were really happy with the finish that we did, where
people were singing your praises when I was getting the votes for wrestler. You insurmountably got wrestler of the show for Autumn Brawl because of your character work in selling Just Leave Him Alone, Rex, Just Leave Him Alone. You getting emotional in some way about how it was all taking place, and Rex joining the originals.
Yeah, so I really liked that finish because it linked in the history that I had with Steel, the history that I had with Rex, the history that Rex had with the originals, the fact that me and Rex had both been a team with Steel and a mentor to him, the fact that I had left the team with Steel to team with Jack, and all of that. So I really feel like because of the way that it linked in all those storylines and the callback to like how me and Steel kind of remained loosely allied throughout the whole of WCWA, even after the team finished, I really liked it. It's one of my favorite matches ever. I'm really proud of it. I was really honored to be given Wrestler of the Year nod. I'm really glad that one of my matches has finally been a candidate for Match of the Year. I don't expect it to win, but I'm really proud of what we accomplished that day. And yeah,
I agree. And I think Jack said to me he felt like the War Games shouldn't have been a nominee for Match of the Year, but I'm like, fuck you, it was a good match. Like, that match fucking insurmountably fucking got Match of the Show, and it did well, and it was a really good match. And
see, that again
it was better than any other match on that show, which featured the likes of me versus Chaos, and the absolute slobber knocker between Bladeshaw and Esqueleto. It was a fucking awesome match, and it was a return to form for the War Games, which hadn't been seen for 2 years at that point, because we didn't do one in 2015 because of what went down in 2015. But I enjoyed it, and that's all there is to it. I think it was a great War Games.
And I want to move on quickly again here, but yeah, just before we go, the only reason why it wouldn't be a candidate for Match of the Show would be like Jack's part in it. If that's going to be his attitude, that he doesn't think that it should be a candidate for Match of the Year, that's really disappointing and hurtful. I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed to hear that he would say something like that, because I like Jack a lot, he's a good mate of mine, but come on, dude. Like, that's one of the proudest moments I've had in yachting, and it was a time where I was finally in the spotlight, and he was in the spotlight as well, and he reckons it shouldn't be a Match of the Year. That's just sad.
It's ridiculous.
It's a great match, and everyone involved did well, and it's disappointing that he would have that point of view.
While I pour you a new cordial, a fresh cordial, I want you to talk about... Okay, so Rex has turned on Steel, and now it's transferring on from you versus Jack to you versus Rex. Why did you choose Rex to be your final opponent at the final show?
There's a real simple reason why I chose Rex to be my final opponent at the final show, and that is that nobody out there can wrestle the way that Rex Regum does. Chris Parker, Rex Regum, whatever you want to call him, great friend of mine, fantastic wrestler. My favorite wrestler in the world to work against. We've had an incredible series of matches. I knew that the final match that I ever had would be a great match if it was against Chris. End of story. Also,
exactly why I chose Mykonos.
Yeah.
Because I needed to make sure I was going to have a great
There are
match.
just those opponents that you just know it's going to be fantastic, and I've sung Rex Regum's praises on this podcast many times before. He's fantastic, and that's why I wanted him to be my final opponent. And it made the finish of the War Games match even more meaningful that we used that to transition into a feud with each other. So, Frostbite next. Me and Vincent Graves, I'll go into that.
I wanted a rematch, bro.
Yep. So the rematch happens, and this time I feel that even though I liked the first match, the second match was my favourite of the two. And again, another fantastic match that I really...
worked out the kinks, and you got it.
It was improvised, everything flowed better, like, we were moving better.
And it flowed in a good way, not like a mojo flow.
Yeah, the crowd seemed to really enjoy it, which, as you've probably heard me use that phrase several times already, and that's because I consider the crowd's enjoyment of the match to be a barometer of whether it's good or not, followed by how much fun I have in the match. So yeah, I really enjoyed the match, and I was very excited that me and him were going to be teaming up as an alliance.
Yes, that's what I wanted. I thought it would help Vincent by... because I didn't have a plan for him for the final year, because we'd already booked everything, and it was really difficult, because I think we had like one odd man. Pardon me, we didn't have an even roster. So we had one odd man the whole time, and Gareth had to be slotted into different spots as the year went on until I could figure out what to do with him for the last few months when we did another booking meeting. So I felt if I put him with you, then whatever you're doing, he can be involved with, and it will give him more purpose than just being there and having random matches for the fuck of it. So that was the idea behind it, and I thought it would be meaningful for you to be in a tag team with your friend properly, not like ICWS, where ICWS 2015 kind of ended before you could really go anywhere with that story with him. And now you could actually take what you might want to have done with ICWS and actually do it in your final year in WCWA, because all I fucking cared about was that everyone's exits from yarding was perfect for them.
Yeah, and it worked out fantastically, and I'm glad that you appreciated the match as well. And yeah,
it's very good.
It's so hard to pick favourite matches, because a bunch of these, just on this here alone, I'm thinking, fuck, I love that match. It was good.
So many, one after another. Jack at WCWA Poo. It's supposed to be the reunion of the franchise. The franchise versus Vincent Graves and Daniel Johnston for the tag team titles. The originals now are working under Freebird rules. It was going to be, for me, it's a big deal to see the franchise reunite after a year and a half of not being a team anymore. This was the second time that I tried to get the fucking franchise back together. The first time around, it didn't fucking happen. So this is the second opportunity, and Jack went out the night before. He dropped pills. And he messaged me at like fucking 3 a.m. saying, I'm going to fuck up DJ tomorrow. I can't wait. It's going to be a fucking sick match. Blah, blah, blah. I can't wait to fuck him and Gareth up. Whatever it was that he said. And I'm like, dude, what have you had? And he's like, I've just, dropped my third pill. I don't know what he said. And maybe I shouldn't be vocalizing this on the podcast. But this is what he said.
No one.
And I was like, all right, dude. Well, as long as you're okay to go tomorrow, then fucking let's do it, okay? So the day comes, Jack cannot get out of bed. And I understand, because I've done that stuff before as well.
All right.
And I know how it feels when you're coming down. You can't do anything. You're fucked. And he's in bed all day. I don't think he showed his face until about 2:30. And you'd been saying to me over and over again during the day, is he going to do the match? Is he doing it? We need to fucking plan the match. And I'm like, shit, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to fucking do anymore with this guy. He's up in his bed all day. We've already gone through the show halfway through. I don't know what to do anymore.
All right, well...
So we end up replacing Jack with Rex, who had already had a match. So he was already exhausted.
To be completely honest with you, man...
And you were offended. You're upset.
I was offended, yeah.
It's disrespectful.
I was offended, yeah. Because I thought, here I am, ready to give... Jack's got another chance here, and once again... I felt like it was a personal thing that he had against me. But, to be honest with you, I was relieved that I didn't have to fucking work against him. I was glad that Rex got put in the match, because I thought, alright, we can use this to add a bit of heat to our feud, which we did, a few subtle things in the match to do that. and I think it was a really good match. Gareth had a lot of fun.
That was tremendous. Great tag match. It ended up being way better than it probably would have been.
Yeah, like a hell sick finish with the STO gyro combination that everyone popped big for.
And probably the match you and Gareth needed to have in your first ever tag match together.
Yeah, it was a great match, and yeah, I was happy with it, you know. Him not showing up and doing the match turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And once again, love you, Jack, but we're just talking about shit that
he knows the stuff from the past.
This really happened. This, you know, you can... If you get annoyed about this, Jack, like really think back if you listen to it anyway, and you know this is what happened, man.
He'll take ownership. He knows he did the wrong thing.
Yeah. So all right. So yeah, another great match, another great show.
Quickly, I wanted to ask you about the main event of WCW, which is Dark Ice versus Blade Shaw. What were your thoughts when, after the match, you weren't happy with the fact that it was a bit of a screwy finish and? You demanded. You said, I demand a fucking rematch between them two. I want to see a clean winner. The reason why it happened that way is because Blade said to me, I don't feel right about beating Ice clean.
Yeah, and that's all well and good, you know, because Blade's a sweetheart, and I can, you know, he would definitely be the kind of person to have that respect.
How well do you know Blade?
Oh, man, Blade and I have become quite close.
Oh, right,
over
okay.
the time. So, yeah, no, but you know, as a fan of the WCWA product, there are very few matches that really fucking hook me in.
And that resonated with you, that match. You were into it.
And this match hooked me in. I was loving it. I'm sitting there, I'm watching my friend Blade, who's improved tremendously, have this kick-ass match. I'm watching another one of my best mates, Ice, who's battled through so many injuries and adversity to get where he is, and he's having this fantastic match, and there's false finishes, and you're buying into it, and
the LWO
it's this amazing match, and fucking...
The
so when there was a
Smoz
finish,
come out.
I was annoyed as a fan that there was a Smoz finish.
It's
I was
so,
like,
Attitude Era.
this match was an amazing match, and it deserved to have a clean finish, because if it had had a clean finish, that match would have been a match of the year contender.
And it is.
I think it is.
It is.
But
Jack said it shouldn't be. And I said to him, cunt, you weren't even fucking there. You were in your bedroom the whole time. I watched the recaps. No, dickhead. You have to witness it live in person.
Yeah, you have to kind of witness the energy.
Not just see every
for
move
everyone
that
that's
happened in the
at
match.
home here, you can't see me, but the Italian side of me is coming out, and I'm doing the
You're doing the Vince Russo.
So, you know, it was an amazing match, and I demanded the rematch because
And that's why I ended up getting booked again for Hostile Backlash.
Yeah, I thought this can't be... This needs to have a conclusion, because these two just tore the house down.
And I agreed. And that changed booking plans because of your excitement. Because of you salivating at the idea of seeing a fucking rematch. And I was like, oh, well, I got to give it to him because at least someone cares that passionately to fucking express that to me. So I really appreciated that, bro.
Yeah,
but speaking of appreciation, let's go to the other side of the spectrum here and get to Hardcore Hell, where we didn't really appreciate a hell of a lot that happened there. Initially, it was just supposed to be me and Mykonos versus Rex Regum and Jack Wallace for the tag team titles. I realised as I was booking the card, usually it's all booked in advance, but at this time we needed to go and do another booking meeting and figure out where we were going. This was a situation where we didn't know what to do with you and Vinny on the show. Yeah. So I was like, how about this? And I said to Mitch, mainly Mitch first and foremost, what do you think of adding Vincent Graves and DJ to the match? And he's like, fuck yeah, that'll be awesome, like a triple threat tag team thing. That we've never done anything like that before, and I get to wrestle DJ again. Let's do it. I'm like, all right, cool. So Mitch is on board. I'm on board. This is Jack's opportunity to redeem himself, and you know, you getting to wrestle Rex, Mykonos getting to wrestle Rex. That's always a positive.
I get to wrestle Mykonos.
I get to wrestle Gareth. I've never touched him before.
I get to work with you again. I get to work with Mykonos again.
It's a dream.
Awesome.
Isn't that a dream?
It's pure. It's pure, and I'll preface this because I know that we're trying to run through things quickly.
It's okay.
But we're
getting towards the end now.
We discussed this match in quite great detail in the review for the Hardcore Hell 2016 podcast.
Yes.
So if you want to find out more details about how we felt in greater detail, you can go back and listen to that.
But you'll get even more greater detail right now on DJ's podcast when he goes through the ins and outs of what the fuck went wrong.
Because Carl is going to want to say his piece. I can already see it on your face.
I want to hear you say your piece.
All right, I'm going to say my piece. So
we're thinking this is going to be epic. 3 teams, one match for the tag
teams,
titles.
All top-level names. Everyone, I'm in a team with my best friend in the world, Gareth. You're in a team with Mykonos. 2 guys I haven't wrestled for ages, but I love working with. I get to wrestle Chris, who, as I've already said, is one of my favourite opponents. He's going to be my final opponent. I just wrestled him in a great tag match the previous show. We're thinking,
this can't go wrong.
This can't fucking go wrong.
Do you remember the conversation we had before we went to the ring? We're in fucking... before making the entrance.
We're sitting backstage
what's
and
happening?
we all said...
How's this match...
All right, so here's the thing.
Jack...
So, no, just let me... I'll say first, and then... Because the way that the inflection
Motherfucker.
on goddamn son of a bitch! No, just the way that you... We ordered the goddamn shit because we're fucking hungry.
Because we wanted to fuck around.
Send out any fucking cunt. I was insane, man.
Well, you know I love Harry.
Well, you know I love you.
And,
oh, man, I was mad at Jack that day. I was insane mad. But just the way that you said Jack there, I already know that there's a rat forthcoming, so I'll finish my piece. So we've set the stage. We're salivating. We're thinking this is going to be pure.
Yeah.
We're thinking that this is going to be the definition, the diamond standard of pure.
The perfect definition of pure.
The perfect
but
pureness. But
it ended up being fucking
all
opposite.
right. No, that's not quite.
All right. Okay.
So here's what happened. Backstage before the match, we're sitting there. Gareth and I are hell excited about wrestling Crudanos. I'm excited as well because Chris is in the match. Gareth enjoys working with Chris as well because he likes the physicality. We say to ourselves, Jack and Chris are the first ones to go.
They have to be.
Let's have Chris do most of the work for his and Jack's team so that he gets a good amount of time in the ring for this show so that he hasn't been wasted for a show so close to the end of the Fed. And then let's eliminate that team first so that we can do Crudanos versus...
And the excitement is even higher, DJ, because we've confirmed at that point there will be new tag team champions. Yes. Who will it be?
There will definitely be.
Will it go to Vinny G and DJ?
Because
will it go to Crudanos?
Yes, because the originals were working under the Freebird rule, as we said before, and they were the champs. So with them being eliminated first... There was definitely going to be new champs.
Oh God!
So now it's going to be. So now
it
couldn't. So then we're like, let's get rid of Jack's team first. Fuck Jack. You know, we'll make sure that Chris has a great showing because we love Chris, but we're going to get rid of that team first so that Jack can't fuck up the match. In any case, Jack manages to fuck up the first half of the match. So here's what happens: for every bit of time that Chris, Carl, Mykonos, myself, and Gareth are in the ring with anybody but Jack, the wrestling is fine. Anytime that anytime that myself, Mykonos, or Carl are in the ring with Jack, it's okay. It's average because we're able to.
I'll put my hand up here and say, anytime I was in the ring with Jack, I hit him with a move, I hit him with another move, and I tagged out.
Yeah,
he wasn't going to get anything in on me. There's no fucking way.
So yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say. Any combination of the 6 people in the match, bar Jack, and the wrestling was great. Any combination of us versus Jack, except for Gareth, was good because we were able to impose our will on Jack. We were able to force him to put us
Gareth
over.
could have sneezed and Jack would have fucking hit away.
That's what I was about to get to. I'm trying to build it up with mystique and you're getting into it too fast.
Sorry.
So then Gareth tags in against Jack.
Oh, God.
And Gareth is coming off of his first few matches, which have all been fantastic. But what happens when Gareth tags in against Jack? What happens is Jack's too afraid to let Gareth touch him.
Basically, his bumhole winks.
Gareth goes for a clothesline. Jack preemptively bumps, and badly, I might add. Gareth tries to do some kind of a move to Jack. Jack slinks away and tries to tag out. Gareth tries to approach Jack to keep the match going and do something in the match. Jack practically runs away. Jack, at one point, pulls out a weapon in a non-hardcore match and almost takes Mitch's head off by swinging a street sign at him sideways and almost fucking cutting his throat open. He also puts...
Why he wanted to use a weapon? It's hardcore hell. Every match has to be hardcore.
It has.
How about we fucking ignore it because it's yarding, and let's just have a fucking good match, cunt.
Yeah. So he nearly takes out Mitch's jugular.
He
with
nearly
the
killed
sign.
him. He
nearly killed him,
You
and
should
we're
see
not
Mitch's face.
We're not exaggerating. He nearly killed our friend. So, goddamn. So Gareth can't wrestle Jack because Jack doesn't want to do anything, brother.
And then after his back and forth with Gareth where it didn't go well, then everything else Jack did after that turned to shit.
Yeah, it was like we couldn't even keep the train on the tracks after that point. It went from there being adequate and average wrestling in the ring with Jack to it just being the shits.
And what is his fucking hot piece of pussy at the time thinking because she's watching him wrestle for the first time?
And not looking like he can fight. So...
Oh, fuck.
So here we go. So this is what really got me steamed. Okay? Do you remember what I'm about to say?
Well, I wanted to tell my story about what I said to Jack before the match, but now we've got through the match.
Right, no, but you're gonna...
Okay, then I'll tell my side, go.
Yeah. So, I go to put Jack into a figure four lock. Figure four leg lock. It's a move that is a very famous move in wrestling. And it's famous for a reason, and why it's famous is that people...
Woo!
Yes, but why it's famous even before Ric Flair is that people can believe that it hurts. And it's also a very popular and effective move in this simulated combat sport of wrestling.
And everyone knows how to take it.
It's very simple. It's very simple to apply.
Everyone knows how to take it.
It's easy to sell.
You can let them have your legs, and then they
You just lay there. You just lay there. And don't get pinned. And no matter what size you are, no matter how good you are in the ring...
Whether you're fat, whether you're thin...
Or whether you're a skeleton...
You're gay, it doesn't matter.
You can take a figure four. And I've done the figure four several times. I'd added it because I felt like I needed an extra move in the repertoire.
I prefer to do the figure whore, but continue, DJ.
Figure whore.
Yeah,
figure
nice
pure.
Pussy. I don't even know who I'm thinking of, but I'm just thinking of nice pussy.
No,
bro.
so I got to put him
Nice
in the figure
pussy.
four. I got to put him in the figure four, and he's not cooperating. It looks fucking shit. At one point,
you got to lock it in.
And
you miss.
I miss
Because his leg
he
moved his leg.
Because he moved his leg out of the way. At that point, I'm
on the ring apron and I'm loving it.
At that point, I get up and I'm fucking steamed. I'm audibly yelling like, "What the fuck," and I'm looking over at you and you're understanding why I'm so pissed off.
Yeah,
and I proceed to stand up. I pick Jack up. I say, "Now you're ruining the match for the fucking rest of us.
Because you're so fucking shit.
Because you're so fucking shit." I put him in a front face lock. I give him a DDT.
Of all moves.
I pin him.
And you put your fucking forearm in his face.
I put my forearm in his face and put my body...
I think you said, "That's it, you're getting pinned now."
You're getting pinned now. I pin him. So now, poor Rex Regum
He's on the ring apron.
Rex Regum looks at me and says, like, "What the fuck?" And I apologize profusely to Rex after the match because now Jack has made me so upset and ruined the flow of this match so much on one of the final shows that we're ever going to get to have on what should be a dream fucking match that I have had to... that Chris has had to lose his tag team title via a DDT to Jack.
Yep.
So, Jack and Chris are now eliminated. And Chris had done a great job in the match, and he didn't deserve to have the tag team titles taken away from him like that. But
Because he had held it longer than anyone.
because he'd held it the longest, and he was also the workhorse of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled double duty at the previous show because Jack couldn't be fucked getting out of bed. So you can imagine how furious myself and Carl are. Gareth's getting hot. He's furious because he's feeling like he's not able to have a good match.
Well, just when I thought that it couldn't have got any worse than him not getting out of bed for the day.
Mm.
And it got worse when he actually did get out of bed and performed.
Yeah. So we're furious. And then we proceed, we two teams, myself and Vincent and Crudenos, to salvage the match. And
It was a hard go, wasn't it? It was a hard go to try and do that.
But we ended up having a great match.
It was good.
We ended up enjoying it. And I'd say that 75% of the match ended up being good. And 25% was shit.
Well, the only thing I'll say about my side of the story is backstage, before we're about to make our entrances, we're figuring out who's getting eliminated when and what's happening. I turn to Jack and I say, because of what you did at the last show, disrespecting DJ and Vinny, you will either be taking a pinfall or you'll be submitting to DJ to have your team be eliminated. That's what's fair.
And he was supposed to submit to the figure four, which is what got me hot.
Right. So that's like, I was adamant that DJ would finally get his comeuppance against Jack, because you never got to before, because you refused it the first time. Now this time I was playing my power play against him and saying, this is what's happening. I don't care what you have to say about it, because you've fucked up again for about the fucking 4th or 5th month in a row. It's not fair, and you got to do the right thing now by DJ by allowing him to beat you clean in the fucking center of the ring, because that's the right fucking thing to do. That's the only story I'm going to tell on this match. As we know, it went the way it did. We
possibly one of the most controversial matches in WZWA history.
Possibly, and
I loved that.
We hit the double super kick on. I mean, my super kick to Vincent wasn't very good. I don't think I even hit him, but I ended up getting the pin. And
no, it looked good.
No, Mitch's was okay. Mine wasn't too good. But anyway, look, let's move on. We've told the story, and it was very entertaining. Luckily for Rex Regan later on in Hardcore Hell, Clint Marshall shows up, doesn't have an opponent. He ends up having a Match of the Year candidate against him. So, very well done, Chris. That turned Chris around for the rest of the year, and Chris killed it every show, man.
Just when I thought no one would top Ice versus Blade, that fucking match comes along.
Because that ended up being the last match of the show, because Zibby arrived late. Anyway.
What a match.
Let's move on to Christmas Carnage.
Yes.
You versus me. Let me preface this by stating that the night before, my band Jackson Coke had a huge opportunity to perform at a show called LA Xmas, which was at the Rocket Room, which is usually a male strip club now, but for one night only it was being resurrected as the old Rocket Room for a night of tribute rock and roll bands, and we were an original band being given the opportunity to play on a night where it's usually for tribute bands. So we get to open the evening, and we are stoked by it. But I'm having such a great time that I drink, and I drink, and I drink. I end up staying till about, 1 in the morning, but I'd had a few beers. I didn't get that much sleep. I woke up thinking I was okay, but I was a little bit hungover. The day was fucking hot.
It was.
And
it was like one of those days where if you touch the canvas...
yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, you touch the canvas, it's 45 degrees. We did well with our promo before the match. We wanted to try and do a rehash of that moment between you and I and Nick's 2 cents at Halloween Hell Seasons Beatings 2012. we tried to rehash some sort of like shoot type thing with one another.
And it was good, man.
It was very good.
Fucking good,
And I was
man.
very happy with it. And then we went out there and had the match, and fuck, man, I was just so dehydrated very quickly because of how hot it was. I hadn't had enough water that day, and the match suffered because of it. It was still okay.
I mean, the match was about like a 3-star match
but
out of 5. But
it was just not. I wasn't happy with it.
Because
but you tell me your point of view when this promo's taking place, as well as the match, and Jimmy Jamal Jenkins is in the crowd.
So Jimmy Jamal Jenkins is in the crowd. I used to manage him on the pro circuit. He's a good mate of mine. Love him to death. And I really wanted to, like, you know, have a good match for his benefit as well, because you always like getting a bit of props from the pro guys, the ones that you like anyway. For this match, I was really excited to finally get my opportunity to have another singles match against Aston Crude.
And we'd never done it in the ring.
We'd never done it in the WZWA ring, and the last time that we did wrestle, my skill level wouldn't have been as good as it was by this point. I was also fired up from the little taste of wrestling him that I got in the previous match. And then we have this great promo segment where I feel like, yes, I've gotten my mojo back promo-wise. This was fucking awesome.
Because we had something to actually say.
Yeah.
And that was me getting my mojo back, dude. I'd been cutting bland promos all year. The next person on the hit list is this. I wasn't fired up about anything, and I finally got fired up about me trying to pump up the Daniel Johnston character to fight me, because he felt like I wasn't worth his time over the way that he had felt he had been treated over the years.
So then we have this great...
So we pulled back the curtain, and everyone loved the fact that we pulled back the curtain, even though we kind of fabricated it a little bit. Like, you weren't that upset over your push over the years.
No, not
but we
really,
had to
because
in
real life I've always been pretty...
And we had to use that as a dialogue in order to have Aston try and convince DJ why this match should happen. And I remember we were drinking at your house, and Brandon kept on going, New Year's Eve. Brandon kept going on about how he felt it was inappropriate that we went there. And I was like, do you understand it's a story? And we
not only
needed
was
to
it a
tell
story,
that story to get DJ to agree to the match.
Not only was it a story, but it was based on experiences that we had actually had, that we were there for. Brandon wasn't there for that. How would he know what's appropriate and not appropriate? So the promo segment happens. We're both feeling fucking good about it. My adrenaline's pumping. And the match is going great, and I actually remember being a little bit disappointed when Kyle called to finish it, because I'm having a great time. I'm loving the match. He's like, finish. I'm like, oh, what?
I remember.
Because I was right at that point where my second win was kicking in, and I thought
we were halfway through.
Yeah, I thought we were halfway through. I was like, this is going to be another classic DJ match that'll be like
I was so disappointed in myself.
And so I'm sort of sitting there going, oh, fuck. But I knew that Cole had been having some problems with like some asthma and like getting really gassed. So when he said that he wanted to finish it, I was like, all right, for his safety, we'll finish it.
Because you can, if you watch the match, you can see
the point
turn.
Yeah.
Because I think I laid on the mat for a little bit.
Yeah.
And that fucking killed me physically. I couldn't do anything else. And the match ends. I've got to be helped backstage by Chaos because I can't walk properly. And Ice and Amber are fucking feeding me Coca-Cola and a bit of water to try
the Coca-Cola is probably the worst thing to drink.
No, they said that if I needed some sugar to wake me back up because I was like passing out basically. And I was so upset at myself because I was like, fuck, I finally got to wrestle DJ and I feel like I fucking ruined it because I had a late night because I was proud of what my band accomplished and I wanted to have a few drinks to fucking celebrate. So I was disappointed in myself that physically I wasn't up to scratch for this match. But keep going, sorry.
So then the next thing happens. No, I mean, like you're a part of this match, so we need your point of view, and So then the next thing is I want to have a rematch, and it's like Carl wants to have a rematch, but it's like
we can't fit it in.
It can't happen.
We can't fit it in.
It can't happen because
with the hit list, I've got to move on to the next person. I can't do rematches. I can't have any feuds because I've got to move on to the next guy.
So it can't fucking happen. You know, it just sucked balls. So Carl then comes to me and says, "Do you want to do an empty arena match? It'll be the first one of its kind and probably the only one that'll ever be done in WZWA and probably in yachting in general."
The only time I ever did one was XCW against a guy called O Factor. He couldn't make the show at the last minute because he was now working at McDonald's and become a manager. So he couldn't do the show. So a few days beforehand, we rocked up to Vaughn's house and did this empty arena match. And it was very good. And I was very proud of it. And I always wanted to do one more. And this was a perfect scenario, a perfect opportunity for us to have that rematch. And do it the way that we really wanted it.
Yeah, so this was... So, first, before we get into
Before we get to
it'll
that,
be a hilarious
I want to know about how you felt about finally getting to go over on me.
Fucking good, man.
Because I had said no to you at Seasons Beatings 2012. I did tell you I didn't want to put you over at that point because I was trying to build myself up for this storyline where I climbed the ladder and I wanted to save my first loss to someone from SPWS.
Well, I mean, you and I have always come from different schools of thought about that. I've never cared about wins and losses, but by that point, I'd never beaten you and we'd encountered each other a few times, and I thought, like, I've earned beaten Carl at least once, so I was glad about it.
But I remember you were sitting here with me, I think, and I said to you, at Christmas Carnage, you're going to be the first person to beat me on the hit list.
Yeah.
Because no one had at that point.
So,
I'd been winning every single
That's
show.
right. So then I won the match, and I was feeling good about it, and I remember I was kind of, at first, sort of thinking, like, now I've just finally beaten him, and that's going to be tarnished because we're doing the empty arena, and he's going to have to win because I can't go too straight over him,
And I had to put the belt on the line because you beat me,
So then I was like, but then, the spectacle of doing an empty arena match was going to override that, and it wouldn't really matter by the end, like, who won anyway. So...
Plus, I beat you the same way you beat me with the small package.
Yeah, so... Now, before we get into the hilarious little story about this situation...
I got a wee, keep talking.
I'll lay out why this prospect was so cool. So, Carl and I have always been good mates, but over about the last year and a half, like, we've become, like, best mates. Like, we're heaps close friends by now. And so, this was really the first time, Christmas Carnage was the first time that we'd ever gotten a chance to have a singles match as best friends that hang out all the time, where we were able to talk about the match a lot before it actually... Yeah, before it actually happened. So that added to why we were a bit disappointed with not doing a classic at Christmas Carnage. So the empty arena match was an opportunity to redeem that, but because there was not going to be any crowd and we weren't going to have to worry about performing in front of the audience, we had the opportunity to do something special. Because we had the opportunity to do a pre-taped match where we would get to kind of like really lay it out and take our time planning it before we performed it, because we wouldn't have anyone waiting on us to continue the show.
Bingo!
Oh, man. Cordial, man. Cordial.
Here, have this.
Oh, sick, man. Sick. So, so we were looking forward to it, and we discussed various different ideas, and on that day we came up with a situation where we would do this really cool thing where the camera would be on Aston Crude as he arrived at the arena for the match, and it would follow him as he walked from his
sick,
car.
Isn't it?
Talking
Daniel
about the
Johnston
match.
wants it.
Yeah. Cutting a little promo on me, and I'm somewhere in the depths of the building already. So he cuts this promo as he walks from his car to the arena. He's still cutting it once he gets into the ring, and then I'm going to come out, and I'm going to be hot because I'm going to be pissed off at the stuff that he's been saying, and we're going to then start off the match like that with a big brawl on the outside. Now, here's where things go a little bit north.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Luke Monnett is in charge of photographing the match, and as usual with Monnett, nothing can ever go perfectly with his camera situation, even though he's meant to be the resident media guy.
I'll cut in here and say what the issue was. The issue was that the SD card that we were using was damaged.
All right.
And we didn't realise it. I grabbed the wrong one.
So we start the match off, and it's already off to a hot start. Like, as soon as it's... I don't know if you felt the same way, but as soon as
we're off to a hot start,
as soon as it started, I was like, this is going to be a classic.
This is going good.
It's not going to not be a classic.
We did mess up a big boot.
So we messed up... Hang on, that was actually... That was not
the
yet.
second one?
So, you're spoiling it again,
Sorry,
man.
keep going.
So,
I'll shut up.
We start doing the match, and we're brawling on the outside, and we work our way back into the inside, and we're beating the crap out of each other. And, you know, like, we're throwing each other into stuff on the outside. And
I've hit him with a trash can.
Yeah, he's hitting me with a trash can lid. And then we get in the ring and we do a couple of things. And then, like, right as, like, Carl hit a move on me and then goes for the cover. And then he's, like, trash talking and going, oh, is this what you wanted? And then right at that moment, Monet says, guys, stop. And we're like, what? And for those wondering why I keep coughing, by the way, I've recently quit smoking and I'm adjusting to being one of those douchebags with an e-cigarette.
Wow.
So, we're like, fuck, you know, because it's hot and we were off to a great start.
It was pretty hot, yeah, the temperature was high.
So we're like, all right then. So now Monet goes and sorts out the situation and it's like we're ready to start again. But because it's a corruption...
What he'd filmed, yeah.
Because it's a corruption on the SD card and not a battery issue or something with the camera, we have to start all the way from the beginning where Aston's car arrives at the arena.
Fucking ridiculous.
So now I've got to go backstage and wipe the grass off me and, you know, fucking freshen myself up a bit because I'm starting another match. Now, I go and listen, getting ready for the match again as he cuts his promo, and this time he improves the promo a little bit more.
Yeah.
So he improves the promo a little bit more, and then the match starts again. And then the brawl on the outside is slightly better than it was the last time because we figured out where there was a couple of little missteps on it, even though it was great. But we removed those little blemishes from the first one.
That's right, yeah.
Trying to make the best out of a bad situation. We get back in the ring. Things are even off to a better start now. We do even slightly more in the ring this time. Mm-hmm. Guys, we got to stop.
Fuck. I was fuming.
I
was sweating buckets at that point.
And the match was already off to just another fantastic start.
So here we are. Some water.
So here we are. We're like, shit, it's a hot day. We've already, by this point, we've probably done a combined, 15 minutes of wrestling. But because we had to, stop the match and the adrenaline goes down and we had to start it again, it takes a lot out of you physically because you're in that battlefield mindset that you're in the middle of a match and then that has to change again.
To go to my car again and waltz out my car again,
now he has to
talking to the camera. Oh, did DJ put you up to this? The cameraman's in my face already. I just arrived. DJ wants an empty arena match, huh? This is the third time I'm fucking doing it.
So this time, he actually improves the promo yet again.
Yeah.
I come out again, the brawl starts. We improve the little blemishes from the second take, trying to take advantage of the situation as best we can. I'm choking him with the collar, and this time, nothing happens with the camera. So we're brawling on the outside. It's fucking awesome. I do a dive off the apron, diving crossbody.
Never done it
before.
I've
ever done. And it looks awesome. We're in the ring. Every move that we're doing is crisp. Crisp backdrop. Crisp clotheslines. The big boots and the strikes are crisp and they look good. Everything's working well. The flow is great. We're trash talking each other. The pace is fast. We're not getting gassed. The adrenaline's going. We reach that runner's high in the wrestling match where the adrenaline's kicked in and we're ready to go for our second win to the match. And we keep going. And then finally, we he goes for the sharpshooter. I push him off. In I come. Small package. 1, 2, 3. That's the end of the match. And a classic match has been born on the third attempt.
And I was fucking proud of it, man.
And I'm proud of it,
you know what?
too.
We fucking nailed it there.
We fucking nailed it.
I was glad, in a way, that the camera fucked up 2 times because we could improve on things every time we went out there and did it. First of its kind, never to be done again. There were ideas for me to have more empty arena matches with Antilochus, who, because of his chicken nugget situation at WCWA Poo, and
Which
also
is-
Dan missing out on our match at Hostile Backyard Showdown. I wanted to have these matches with them at some point before the final show, just so I could actually have a proper match with them, but they didn't happen, so our match remains to be the first and only of its kind in WCWA history.
Which is another cool little distinction, and I think, and the reception from the boys was great as well. They all loved it. I think it's
Because
one,
they didn't know it was happening.
I think it's one of
All
my.
of a sudden, it was uploaded.
I think it's one of my best matches that I've ever had. I did stuff that I've never done before. It was awesome.
It's definitely in my top 55 matches of all time. No, I fucking love it. It was one of my favourite matches in WCWA history. And I wish I could do more of them, but obviously now I'm retired.
They're fun, eh? So, next...
Talking about fucking hitting into high gear, we're going to Hostile Backyard Showdown where we finally get you versus Luke Monet for the first time in the ring. You guys already wrestled at All About That Bass.
Yep.
And now you guys are finally wrestling in WCWA. I've been really going hard to the booking committee. We need to see DJ versus Monet before it's all over in WCWA. It needs to happen. I think it'll be really good. What did you think?
I think it was really awesome. I was really glad that I was on a hot streak of great matches by this point. And a performer like Monet, you know that no matter how I was feeling that day, it was going to be a great match. And it was a physical match, and the crowd was really popping. I did this... My favourite part of the match was Monet was along the apron. I walked up, gave him a stiff as fuck forearm. He bumped on the apron. Everyone pops. He's recovering and getting back up. And then right as he does, I'm running along the apron. Bang! Punt kick, man. Everyone fucking pops. The sound of my boot hitting his fucking brown head is just huge. What a match. I mean, like, I feel like I put Monet over great. He's doing some high-flying stuff. I'm doing my hard-hitting stuff. Just really another one of my favourite matches.
Fantastic match.
I mean, I really loved it. I think that it lived up to what people would have wanted out of the match. So, yeah, I mean, what more can you ask for? Unfortunately, that hot streak of matches would end at the following show, which was the Battlefield Brawl.
That's right. And one thing I will say is, like, this is almost like the last of your feud with the originals, and now it's just transferring straight to Rex Regan, and the originals are now in your past. But a very good match, and I'm very proud to have seen. You know, I've got a vision. I want to see it take place. It takes place, and it's tremendous. And I'm like, that's the payoff for someone who's a booker, to see two guys go out there and have the exact match you thought that they would. So thank you, bro.
No problem.
Battlefield Brawl versus Clyde. I thought this was an important match for you to have because of the history that you guys had with the Broken Highway Mafia. And I thought it would be really good, but unfortunately it just didn't go that way.
No, and I because...
At this time, look, I'm just going to say this, sorry to cut you off. Brandon was very hit and miss. Sometimes he was tremendous and one of the wrestlers of the show in the yarding votes. And sometimes he would miss, and this was a miss. Just like his triple threat with Steele and Ryan, this was a miss. What happened, DJ?
And I feel really bad because Brandon's a close friend of mine and someone that I love. But...
You know, when we did all those podcasts where we reviewed the shows, Brandon
Yeah.
didn't hear any of them until after the final show.
Yeah.
And he messaged me on Instagram saying, man, I didn't even realise that I was doing things wrong so much and I would have liked to have known and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, bro, like, you decided to delete Facebook. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. If you don't know that these review podcasts are happening, then, you know, I'm not going to keep having to prompt you kind of thing. But anyway, what went wrong?
It's a similar situation to... the match that I had at Great American Gash with Jack Wallace, except in this case, it's not any malintent on Brandon's part, whereas with Jack, it was just him being a fucking prick because of how he felt at the time about wrestling and his situation within wrestling.
And I thought you and Jack would have been a good match because of that dark match you had in fucking 2013.
So the match with Brandon, unfortunately, it didn't click. I'm trying to give instructions to Brandon that he's not really following. I guess he wasn't used to not calling the match.
But he shouldn't be calling the match.
Yeah,
I said
guess
this in the podcast.
He
shouldn't be calling the match against someone who's way more experienced. It's up to
and
you. What
I was
happens.
really upset because my mentor and trainer, Jared Slate, was in the crowd, and I really wanted to have a good match and impress him. And I was really upset that the match didn't go well. But Slate said, it's just yarding, man, relax, I'll come back and watch another one, because I really wanted him to...
At least you came to the last one.
It, so I was disappointed for a lot of reasons. I was also disappointed because I'm such close friends with Brandon, and Brandon considers me to be, one of his mentors in wrestling. He always says that I taught him a lot.
Even though there's a lot of back and forth there, and he wouldn't listen to you a lot, but you're still a mentor.
So even though it was kind of, I don't want to say that he's to blame for the match not going well, but I would say that, him not quite getting how things were supposed to be going.
You're supposed to be the ring general.
Yeah, him not quite cooperating with me was the problem. And I remember thinking afterwards at the time as well that I probably shouldn't have tapped out to finish the match, considering what I was being built up for. It's a real shame that it didn't work out to be that good, but as I said, love Brandon, no ill will towards him. It's just one of those things. The only reason why it stung a bit was because it was going to be the only chance I got to wrestle him, and the Fed was coming to a close so soon afterwards. So, yeah, it sucks, but he's my friend, so how mad can you really be? It is only yarding, but, it was a shame.
So speaking of disappointments, Hard Time 6, the third last show. Look, what we're at this point is we all want to have great matches and great moments take place because it's so close to the end. And I felt very bad for you for Hard Time 6 because Alex was supposed to show up early in the day to wrestle you, and then later on do double duty and wrestle JD Flame to help finish off some of the Dream Match Series matches.
And then
he doesn't show up. Well, he's supposed to show up. I messaged him at 2 p.m. You're going up to me all day. Where is Alex? Where is Alex? Where is Alex? No response. No response. He's finally responded to me. Hey man, I can come, but I'm still with my friends right now. And I said, you know what, dude? Don't worry about it. We'll figure something else out. So then Justin was there. Justin was supposed to wrestle Alex. So it just ended up being, look, let's figure something out now. Daniel Johnston versus JD Flame takes place. We'll make it short and sweet. Rex Regan distracts DJ. Cutter from JD Flame. 1, 2, 3.
So, and the reason that we decided that is because I was desperate for Alex to show up because I wasn't feeling 100% that day, and I knew that the longer the day went on, eventually it was going to get to the point where I'd be like, I can't do a full match now, because of how I was. So by the time that this thing with Justin was decided, it was Justin, man, I don't think I can do a full-on match. And he said, you know what, I've just been at work all day, I'm tired and sore. I don't think I can do a full match either. So we thought, let's use it as an opportunity to build both of our feuds, and we'll come back even stronger next time. So JD cuts a great promo about his feud, and then we do the distraction thing. The only thing I regret about that match, though, was that a lot of people in the audience told me afterwards that just that lockup that we did at the beginning, got them excited, and that they actually were hoping that we were going to wrestle. So that was a shame, but I thought that the little segment went well, and I actually ended up being pleased with it because I did something productive on the show. I was like,
as opposed to just not doing anything
yeah,
at all.
just not doing anything. But then, as we'll get to now, hang on, not just yet, because curtain call's next, so I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, bit bittersweet, but at least it worked out well because we, added something to the feud.
Exactly. So we get to curtain call. Thankfully, Alex can show up for this one. I know, behind the scenes, Chaos is very frustrated because he feels like Alex hasn't been there. And he wants to have a great epic feud to match up with everything else that's going on. Me and Mykonos, Ryan and Blade, Jack and Luke, you and Rex, Stacy and Lila, all the great, Brandon and Steele, all the great feuds that are going on at this time. Chaos wants his to be just as important. Of course he would. Why wouldn't he? He'd want his final storyline and his final moments in Backyard Wrestling to be meaningful. But Alex hasn't been there. He missed the last show. He fucked up. And that's the fucking truth. He fucked up. So you finally get to wrestle him at Curtain Call for the first time. Very lucky that we finally got to see Alex Stone versus Daniel Johnston. What was it like working with Alex? Obviously, you're happy to go over there. How did you find finally getting to work with Alex?
It was awesome.
Singles match capacity.
I worked with him a little bit at Clash of the Triads, and I had fun doing that. And in the Brawl. The Brawl, actually, I really enjoyed, like, that little bit. So the Brawl, we didn't talk about that. The only thing I want to add about that is that was... I took a German suplex from Ryan, and he basically backflipped me, and I landed on my head, and it was hectic. So, but yeah, I worked with him a bit in the Brawl, a couple of shows prior, and I was really excited to finally get to wrestle him, and I really enjoyed the match. By no means was it a classic, but it was a solid match, and people enjoyed it. The only thing that I wasn't happy with was that we botched the running knee a little bit. And that was because I didn't realize that he was coming in to do it in that position. I thought I was going to walk out to the center of the ring and be ready to take the bump.
Right.
So the timing was a bit off with that. But other than that, I was pretty happy with the match, and it was good to wrestle him.
I think at this point you actually got to tick off all your Dream Match Series matches, right? I don't know if there was anyone else. Was there? I don't think so.
Counting the match with Phoenix that I had at Twisted Metal 8,
right.
I've wrestled everyone.
Except for Aries.
Except for Aries, yeah.
Which is a crime against fucking Backyard Wrestling that we never got to see Aries versus DJ, that's for sure. But good to see you and Alex go out there and work that match. So now I want to fucking just chill for a second, and I want to hear the point of view of a guy... much like a Mykonos, who feels like my time in Backyard Wrestling is not done. I've got way more to give. I've got fucking several years left in me. How old are you now?
24.
24. I'm 30. You got 6 years left at least until you're sick of it like I was. You have got so much more time to give to this, but you're about to have your final frontier in Backyard Wrestling. How do you feel, dude? Like, are you fucking upset? Like, are you just like, what am I going to do with myself? How the fuck do I get through this? Take me through what goes through a Daniel Johnston's mind knowing it's about to fucking end.
Well, there were a lot of things going through my mind. The day before at the Backyard TV, I was supposed to wrestle, but I couldn't because I was getting sick.
And Mitch didn't show up, and we didn't have a fucking canvas.
And we didn't end up doing it. So, but yeah, the day before, I knew that I was getting sick, and the day after Resolution...
even before that. Sorry, man.
Hang on.
I want to know before that.
I'll get to it.
Everything.
The whole feeling was that I'm like... Really, you know what? I didn't really have time to process the magnitude of it until after the match, because my main concern was making sure that I gave Chris a good match for the final show.
Right.
So I was very much like, I'm going to live in the moment, and the only thing that's important right now is doing the match. And the day before Resolution, I'd started coming down with something. The day after Resolution, I would then spend the next week in bed, with a massive, viral infection.
Right.
And tonsillitis.
How fucking unfortunate.
It was fucked, because I had to spend the day of Resolution being sick, and only through, pain pills and alcohol and and weed was I able to, enjoy the day. But
sake.
Anyway, so... Jared Slade, my mentor and trainer, is in the audience. There's a huge crowd in the audience. There's been a bunch of great matches already to start off the show. I did the Masked Battle Royal.
You didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it. So now we're getting to...
But I needed you to
Chris
do
and
Obi.
I had actually spent the previous 48 hours together to plan the match, and we didn't end up getting around to planning anything, so it was like, oh shit. Then we eventually were like, you know what, man, we're just gonna, like, I had a little talk with Chris, and he was confident the match would be good, and that made me feel better. I popped a bunch of Panamax. Then I got to make my final entrance with my two best friends, or two of my best friends, Nem and Gareth.
Just hold the phone. You're getting way too far ahead here,
All right,
DJ.
you know, let's slow down.
We're already at your last match.
Let's slow down.
I don't want to know about your last match yet. I want to know how you're feeling.
So,
I know you weren't well, but I know you must be. I want to get
All
through
right,
it slowly.
all right.
Look,
So
we're
here
two
we
and a
go.
half hours in now. Who cares how much longer we go?
All
At this
right.
point, everyone stop listening.
All right, here we go. So, leading up to the match, we decide that we're not going to wait until the number 11 spot. We're going to go on earlier. So that's already started to, get my enthusiasm back. Because I'm like, all right, it's coming up soon, so I know that I can just have to pump myself up for a little bit longer, and I can do this thing. Then, once I had a talk with Chris and found out that he was confident in the match and just wanted to have some fun, I was like, all right, this is going to be good.
Let's go out there and fucking do a DJ Rex Regan match like everyone knows we can do.
So then, I'm starting to feel good, and now I'm starting to enjoy Resolution again. I'd been enjoying the matches, but I'd been so worried about how the match is going to go that, that was really concerning me a lot. But now those concerns and those fears are allayed. So I'm starting to get into DJ mode. I'm getting keen. I've got my fucking attire on. I know that I've got my proper tights and boots on. I'm not going to wear a shirt. I'm going to be wearing my pro gear. I'm going to be looking good. I'm starting to feel great. I'm sitting there.
You what you bought from the fucking chemist on the
I'm
way there.
I'm medicated. I'm feeling good.
Better.
I've had a stretch. I've stretched my muscles out. I am ready to go. I'm pumping myself up.
But how are you feeling as the day is progressing? Okay,
I'm feeling.
Look, sorry, I keep wanting to take you back. Why didn't you want to be Obi?
Just because the only thing I wanted to focus on was giving Rex
Were you
Regan
happy
the
that
best
you did it
match.
in the end, though, because it was very entertaining?
As long as
Hearing
everybody...
that theme song was tremendous. That's the perfect... all I wanted was you to make an entrance as Obi.
As long as
how
everyone enjoyed it,
they
then
did.
I guess I
The
feel
Masked
good
Battle
about it.
Royal was over huge with it, as Russo say, over huge.
Yeah,
with
so
the crowd.
I didn't want to do it, but once I had done it and it was over, I was like, all right, everyone seemed to enjoy it.
I didn't want to do Esqueleto in
so
a
I'm
leather
glad that,
jacket, fucking wrestling in the heat.
It turned out to be a good thing that I ended up doing it because people got a kick out of it. So that's all you can ask.
And I appreciate it. Thank you, dude.
No probs. So now, getting back to the closer to the
Vincent
match.
Graves has his last match. How
Vinny
are you
Graves
feeling
has his
watching your
last
boy
match.
do his
It's
thing?
a fucking amazing match. I'm loving it. I'm thinking, Vinny Graves has had a fantastic match. This is fucking awesome. Perfect way for Gareth to go out. Now I've got to step up my fucking game.
Let's not go to you. Let's go to how you're feeling about seeing Eli there at the show.
man.
How
I
are
don't
you
wanna
feeling
go
about...
into-
Fucking go into it. We want to fucking get some fucking juicy fucking dirt here, bro. How are you feeling
feel
about
like
his
you're
bullshit?
gonna turn me back to smoking if you make me fucking... Alright.
How are you feeling about his bullshit? Come on. Come on. You know right now Blade's sitting on a bus on the way to work or on a fucking train on the way to work fucking getting a hard dick over this dirt, bro. Keep going.
Alright. Eli shows up. Haven't seen him in a long time. He walks up. The first thing he says to me is, "How you doing, fag?" Is that really a way?
Wow, so he said that same thing to Nem that he said to you.
No.
He called you a fag.
Is that really a way to fucking greet someone, like an old friend that you haven't seen in a long time when we're both adults now? So straight away, I'm just like, fucking hell. And then, as I'm sitting there, I'm sick, I'm stressed about my match. I get Chaos running up, trying to do one of his little pterodactyl shrieks and scare me. It doesn't work, but I'm annoyed because Chaos tells me that Eli told him to do it. And I'm just thinking, fuck off. Like, we're not in high school anymore. We're adults, and you're bothering me. Like, you know.
This is the last show of your career.
Yeah. You know, his girlfriend's annoying me by fucking just being irritating, coming up and air punching me and telling me I'm selling it shit. It was annoying as fuck. Gareth's having his match. Gareth tells me that, like, he's having this great match and he can hear fucking Eli, like, making little comments and shit about it. And he's thinking, I want to get out of the ring and belt Eli because he's ruining it.
I wish he did.
So then, when Eli finally leaves, I don't think anyone was actually bothered that he left.
Everyone was happy he left.
They were happy that he left. I'm sorry. Like, if he hears this is the way that I feel.
He won't hear it, but you know
he's
what?
Immature.
I will tell him to his face when I see him next. You were wrong at the last show. I asked him several times before the last show,
and I
please
warned
be a
you.
positive
I
influence.
warned you, like, let's not bring him. But if he hears this, I felt like he was rude. I felt like he was behaving immaturely. I felt like all he did was embarrass himself. Because he showed that he hasn't really grown as a human being. He hasn't matured into an adult. He's still acting like a 16-year-old. Yep. He's still making his arrogant little comments when Jared Slate, a Lance Storm-trained veteran wrestler of over 10 years now, sat down and had a beer and a chat with the boys and enjoyed the show.
Respected what we were doing.
Yeah, and enjoyed the show like everybody else. That's all I'm going to waste time on Eli. And shame on him for fucking making those comments and making Gareth feel small while he's having probably the best match that he ever had against a complete stranger.
And then Eli goes ahead to fucking be in a battle royal for 10 seconds up at AEW's bullshit piece of shit show with a fucking light that's on a fucking table fucking with an extended neck to it, and it's just like, are you kidding me? That light is actually a part of your show, you fucking idiots. Good on him. So congratulations.
Whatever.
The unemployed Schwa heavyweight champion.
That's all the time I'm gonna waste on it. You know, that's it.
So you've seen the match. You've seen the show progress.
I'm loving it.
Is Stacey versus Lila before you and Chris?
No.
It's after.
It's after.
Okay, so before Justin and Zibby and all these matches are taking place.
Some great fucking
You're
matches.
taking in the atmosphere.
I'm loving it.
It's all fucking great. You got
Chaos
Nem there. You got Chris
thing.
fucking Zeppelin there. You're loving it. It's a big reunion of all of our friends.
Yeah, I'm digging it. We're coming off the final ICWS show. I'm loving it.
And now it's time.
Now
you're told, DJ, it's you and Rex next.
And I'm fucking pumped. I've made my
sick. You're sick as a dog.
I'm sick, but I've taken my medication. I'm confident the match is great. I'm feeling pumped up because the atmosphere is great. It's a great show, probably the best one we've ever fucking done.
Yeah.
And I'm ready. I'm backstage with two of my best friends, and they're pumping me up.
And you crack the shits at me because you want to do your match now, and I'm like, dude, Nem is on his way back, and you go, for fuck's sake. And I'm like, just wait. He has to walk out with you. It's nice. It's a good thing. Just relax.
Because I'm getting amped up. I'm ready to go.
You're pumped, man.
I'm pumped.
And I understand where you're coming from, but I was like, just wait for Nem. They've just gone to McDonald's. They'll be back in a second. Trust me. So then fucking a minute and a half later, he comes walking down the fucking driveway, and I say to Nem, can you please walk out with DJ for his entrance? Just leave your burger and fries with Tiff and Chris and come out with him because it will be nice.
All right. So now he finally gets back, and now here I am with two of my best friends backstage, amped up as fuck.
Two of your best friends ever.
I'm amped up as fuck to do a match against my boy Rex Regum, another one in our series of classics, and the music starts. And I'd made this special version of my theme song that starts off with the Ezekiel speech from Pulp Fiction.
Wasn't it great that I made you go all the way back to explain everything throughout the show? Excellent.
And now, here I am, and I'm listening to it, and it's getting me pumped up just as I knew it would. And I'm hearing the audience, and they're popping for it, and it's getting them marked up. And I know that I'm about to get a great reception when I walk out there.
Right.
And the music finally hits, and out we step, flanked by Vincent Graves and Knuckles, two of my besties. And I walk down to the ring, and everyone's popping for me, and they're showering me in beer, and I'm slapping hands. And I get at the ring, and I take off my shirt, and I know that I'm ready for this, and it's about to be a classic match. Pure. And so I watch as Rex Regum comes into the ring. Here we go. We've planned out in broad strokes some of the things that we're going to do to start the match, and we know how we're going to finish it. And the match begins. We start chain wrestling. I'm feeling like I haven't chain wrestled in a while. I'm a little rusty. So what I'm going to do is try and put my worker hat on and just sell these submissions while he works around me. And I feel like it looked effective.
Yeah.
We're getting up. First we got off a little hiccup. He headlocks. I headlock him. He goes to sling me off the ropes. My head goes through the ropes and everyone's like, oh, but we recover.
Right.
We do a shoulder tackle. So then, by now, the match has started to flow.
Yes.
We do a few things. We're hitting each other with some hard chops that are getting some good pops, and the noises is good. And I'm starting to get fired up because once I take a few chops and get into the swing of it, here we go. By the time I bounce off the ropes and hit that first clothesline, the clothesline goes well, gets a pop. I'm loving it. I'm knowing that we're in the midst of a great match here.
Right.
The match is going great. Throughout the match, I'm trying to pepper in little pin attempts. A schoolboy here, a crucifix here. And it's awesome. Yeah. I hit the senton. Everyone pops for the senton. It's probably one of the best sentons I've ever done. I missed the second attempt, allowing Chris to capitalize. So here we go. The match continues on from that. And I know from the feeling of adrenaline that I've got and from the way the crowd's reacting that we're having another one of our classics. So by this point, I'm already feeling good. I'm just able to have fun with the rest of it.
Okay.
So now the hard hitting continues. The moves continue. We do a couple of finishing moves. Both kick out because it's a big match. And then, towards the end of the match, Rex decides that he wants to do the walkout spot because he's a heel. He comes back in, and I know that he's going to feed to me. So he comes back in, and I get ready. Bam! Clothesline. Bam! Another clothesline. Rex calls finish. I grab him. I hit the skull-crushing finale. I pin him for 3. Everyone cheers. I've had a satisfying and a great last match. But still, it's not quite over for me. I do my little speech at the end and talk about how much it's all meant to me and how much everything's meant to me. That speech seems to be well received, so I'm happy about that. Once I go backstage, that wash of relief has come over me because my part of the show is done and I've done a good job, so I can just enjoy the rest of the show and get pissed with the boys and get rowdy, and that's exactly what I did. But there was still the concern that, was this good enough to be Rex Regum's final match? And then he comes back, he tells me that he loved the match and that he thought it was awesome and that he thought it was a great last match to have. So I know that was really my main goal going into this for like 6 months before was, this has to be a great match for Chris.
Right.
And I accomplished that, so I couldn't have been happier with the way that it went. The only thing I would have changed was that I wish I hadn't have been sick at the time. And then, later on, Chris gave me the word that Slate enjoyed the match.
Good.
So now everything's come together, cherry on top, everything's worked out perfectly. My tenure in yachting is done, but I'm still feeling great because the show's fantastic and I'm getting rowdy with the boys.
And how did you enjoy the rest of the show?
Fantastic. Every single match was amazing. Blade and Ryan, the main event, the final match ever in WZWA, an emotional roller coaster. My close friend Blade, having come so far, had one of the best matches of his career. He'd broken down backstage before. He didn't think he could handle the pressure of what he was about to do. But of course he could handle it, and he fucking knocked it out of the park. And then, of course, the proposal at the end of the show. And after that, people are coming up, they're hugging each other. Aries is hugging me, Brandon's hugging me, people are crying. People are thanking me for everything I've done for him. People are breaking down. After that big emotional celebration in the ring when everyone's getting ready to party, I'm walking around, I see Jacob backstage and he's just broken down. And he just collapses in my arms like a child. And I said, man, it's fine. Because for a lot of these guys, like, this is the first time that some of them realize that in life, like, things change and I don't think a lot of these guys comprehended what was about to happen.
They hadn't prepared themselves.
They hadn't prepared.
And I told them
And it
fucking a
was
year
like,
before,
yeah.
trust me, when it gets to this point, it's going to be hard for you to fathom.
And I didn't cry like the others, but I was really emotional, and it was a joyful occasion, and it was such an intimate display of friendship as well. Like, we all embraced each other, and
I mean, just to talk about how I was feeling. I mean, I'm sure I'll talk about it another time when we do the resolution review, which we still haven't done. But the amount of people that were coming up to me and just hugging me and saying, "Thank you so much, man. Like, it means a lot to me what you've done," and blah 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 blah. It was the Brandons. It was, Kyle was on my case, like,
man.
Dude, like, what you've done for me is like blah blah blah. I'm like, no worries, man. It means a lot to me that it means a lot to you. That's all that matters. And like, John, for the first time in fucking years, had a serious conversation with me. And I always felt kind of John took the piss out of me a little bit, with all this stuff, and kind of thought that it was a bit ridiculous how involved I was or whatever. But he took the time after I made my speech to say, "Thank you so much for trying to get me involved in this stuff. I'm sorry that I wasn't always like dedicated to this stuff, but it meant a lot to me that you tried to keep me here and keep me up on a pedestal and make me like important, and just thank you," and stuff like that, dude. And it's really nice to hear that you got that too.
Yeah, man. So it was really emotional and it was awesome. And then I proceeded to roll a fat J and have a fat doobie with Aries, Kyle, and Gareth out the back, and that just set the tone for the rest of the night, and it was fucking awesome. And then that really ends my journey in backyard wrestling. That's really as far as everything. But before we wrap this podcast up, I want to hear some of your thoughts on my resolution match. Like, what did you think?
It was without a doubt, it was a highlight of the show to see the guy who was a lot older than his opponent get his comeuppance, get his, it's kind of like a Rocky Balboa kind of thing. Like, can he beat the young guy who's been beating him and fucking getting the upper hand on him for months and months on end? Can he do it? And it was really nice to see that moment take place where Daniel Johnston won his final match. He didn't go out on his back, he actually won, and as everyone would have probably thought, DJ's losing. DJ always puts everyone over at the end. No, this time it went differently. This time Daniel Johnston won, and he got to go out with his arm fucking raised. That's something that shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Daniel Johnston's the wily veteran who puts over people at the end. No, this time we're not going to go that way. We're going to go the other direction. We're going to have DJ fucking have a moment of triumph and walk out with his head fucking held high. The story was told perfectly. That's what I expected from you guys, and I knew it was going to be fucking told perfectly.
Did you like the false finishes and the roll-ups?
It was all fantastic, bro, and there weren't that many matches that got voted match of the show, because there was probably about 5 of them. You got a vote. At least one person thought it was the best match on the show, which is all you need to know that you'd done fucking well, considering every other match that was in contention.
Because after I watched it back, I kind of felt like I was moving too slow and shit, and I was like,
you're just being hypercritical because it's your last match. But I was hypercritical of mine as well. But honestly, it was fantastic, and it was a progression from where Stacey and Lila. That was after yours, wasn't it? So it was you and Rex, Stacey and Lila, Clyde and Steele. It just kept building and building and building, and it got fucking mental by the end of it.
And it meant a lot to me that a lot of people were saying that, like, prior to Brandon and Steele, they considered our match to be match of the day. So if it wasn't for those amazing matches, like, our match very well could have been match of the day. So
exactly.
I appreciate that. I'm glad that you liked it, because
it told the story that needed to be told.
It was especially a lot of pressure, considering we already had those other great matches, let alone the fact that it was the final show.
Plus, you and Rex had happened about 3 or 4 times before that, so we'd already seen you two work with each other. How are they going to make this different to the other ones? And it was different. It wasn't like the Aussie Aussie Anarchy match. Not Aussie, whatever it was, yeah, Aussie Anarchy. It wasn't like that match. It wasn't like the one that you had in 2015. It wasn't like the one that you had at Hard Time 3. This was completely different. Every match you had with him was different to the last one. So, what a great progression of matches, and what a way to go out, bro.
Sick. And wait. Were the chops good as well?
I assume so. What, the knife edge chops? Yeah, they were sick, of course. I don't remember that much, but, you know, I'm sure they were sick. I can't remember. Yeah, like in the corner, you fucking chop. Yeah,
no, his chop battle. He fucking killed me, man. Like my chest was. All right, that's sick, man. That makes me feel good. I'm
good. Well, I'm glad that you feel good because we're at the end of the podcast, DJ. Sick, and I've only got a few more questions.
All right, let's hear it.
What is life after wrestling for Daniel Johnston?
Life after wrestling for Daniel Johnston is beginning my career as a filmmaker, working on my TV show secondhand, and whatever projects come after that. That will be my focus from now on, will be being a filmmaker and forging a career out of that. And
what are you doing right now with that stuff?
Well, right now we are about 1 week away from the first shooting session of the first episode of the show. And I'm very excited about it. That's always been my passion outside of wrestling, and that will be my sole focus. Also, continuing to lose weight. I'm currently down at my lowest weight. I've just quit smoking. I plan to get back into my jiu-jitsu very soon to satisfy the wrestling itch that I'll always have. Hopefully we'll continue to be able to maybe start my own podcast, do something in that realm going forward, because I love doing these podcasts. I think it's a lot of fun. I think I've got a talent for it.
We've still got a few more in the can to go. We've got the ICWS final show review and also resolution.
I'm thinking of starting one though, eh?
You should. You should.
I got to think of what it would be
I
about.
wanted you to start one whilst I had this one. I want you to do your own fucking podcast.
What would it be about?
I don't know. WCWA at the time, but look, anyway.
So there's a lot of stuff, obviously I want to, eventually find a relationship and just all kinds of,
have
just
a family.
Just begin my life.
Shoot your fat load into some hot bitch and then she gets pregnant and
really,
has a kid.
I mean, I guess if I could nail it down, the main priority would be...
Nail it down, bro. Nail it down into Tasha's pussy, bro.
No, but going forward, my health is going to be my primary concern. Being healthy, staying happy, and staying ahead of my mental health issues. And, just devoting myself, fully immersing myself in my filmmaking. And my writing.
That's all well and good, bro. And I'm happy to hear that. But is there a future in professional wrestling for Daniel Johnston? Will you go down that avenue one last time? You tried with Ben Tennis, you tried with Gene Sharp, you tried with just yourself, and it didn't happen. Is the dream still alive?
Well, I mean, look, when I walk around listening to music, I constantly fantasize about being a professional wrestler still. I suppose you can never say never, especially since now a lot of the boys are going into the pro scene. I'd say that as a wrestler, I'll probably never become a professional wrestler. I don't have with my filmmaking and my cerebral palsy and stuff, I just think that I won't ever have the time or the motivation to commit to it. Driving all the way to the trainings, like tearing the ring down, setting it up. I just don't think that's for me. However, if there is an opportunity to return in a managerial role as either a manager or a commentator or some kind of on-screen personality outside of wrestling where I still get to be a character and use my verbal skills, I can't rule that out. If one of the boys says, I'm going to debut, I'd like you to come in and be my manager, I'll be like, yeah, sure. But as far as taking a pro wrestling journey and committing a large portion of my life to it, that will not happen. I would love to come back and do some sort of, like I said, managerial position where I just show up, do what I'm told to do, take a bump, and go home.
As opposed to being at training 2 or 3 nights a week.
if the angle happens that you discussed with Slate one day down the road, I'll be right in for that. If that ever ends up happening and you say
I have a hard time believing it will.
But if
despite
it ever
the
did,
fact that bookers like the idea,
yeah.
I don't think people that would need to be involved will be for it. So it's touch and go. We'll see how that goes. But the final thing, well, not the final thing, but the second last question I have for you is, are you done with backyard wrestling? Will there be another Daniel Johnston backyard wrestling match? Will something happen in Gareth's backyard? Because there's been talks that maybe quarterly there might be a little thing happening at his house where there's a base set up and you might just have a few matches to fuck around.
Yeah, well, the current ICWS base has been torn apart for firewood and shit like that, so there was discussions of it. I don't think it can be ruled out, because, like, at Gareth's house, there are regularly, like, boxing matches and jiu-jitsu matches take place all the time at Gareth's house. So he definitely enjoys, like, hosting those kind of things. And he was the one who suggested, I wouldn't mind doing this as, like, an occasional thing, just getting everyone together and having some fun matches. But I can't speak for Gareth either, he's about to get married.
Right.
Maybe he'll start a family someday soon, I don't know. But I guess it couldn't be ruled out. If he said, hey, do you want to set a base up and like do it, get together anyone who's interested and have a show and have a piss up, I'd be like, yeah, sure, like I'll put the tights on and have another match, because I'll probably always have a small itch to go back in there and drop some elbows and like throw some clotheslines. But yeah, as far as me kind of, or like say for example, one of the other boys wants to start their own like yachting organization and they want me to be a part of it, like, yeah, I'd be willing to join in with that. But I will, as far as like me starting up my own thing or, having like a large role in organized backyard wrestling, that's not happening. I feel like I've more than given like enough to it over the years, and
you're not alone there.
I'm ready to focus like on myself.
Move on to the next part of your life.
It's time to like switch it so that it's filmmaking first, and then like I'll remain a wrestling fan. I'll never not be a fan of wrestling, but yeah, like I think that
outside of those possibilities of managing in the pros or doing a quarterly random wrestling show,
the chances
at your
of any
house,
kind of like
full-time,
like
return,
regular, involvement in
done.
wrestling is done. Once you and Blade and several others decided that you'd be finished, it's like, even if I was wanting to get a yachting company started, I just don't think, like, with so many of the boys going to the pros and then a bunch of others retiring, it's
hard
just
now because you can't recruit those young teenage guys now, because you're getting a bit old now to be having to wrestle 15, 16-year-olds that might want to do it. So
it's just
a bit difficult.
It's run its course naturally.
It has.
And I think that
even if you guys did these random shows, if you said, Carl, would you like to have a match? I'd be like, I exited backyard wrestling perfectly. I can't think of how it would make sense for me to have another match, just a random match against someone, just randomly have this. I just can't see myself even thinking.
Like, I really like my exit as well. I'd be kind of willing to like have just non-canonical, like,
I'd come along and have a drink.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that even those reunion shows that they're probably a pretty slim possibility, because
if it ever happened, it'd be in Jack's ring, and we do a WCWA reunion show just for fun.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, I'd want to wrestle in a ring if I ever did it again.
Because Because I'll never be the one to kind of try and organise the show either. It would have to be that somebody else will come to me and invite me to be a part of it, you know? Like, I'm not gonna I'd be really willing and probably really excited to do the manager thing in the pros, but I'd have to be invited by like one of the boys to do it. I'm not gonna go to them and say, hey Slate, I'd really like to be a manager, because then I'd
You'd
feel
wait
like
for them to ask you.
I'd have to be asked. It's finished, man.
Understood.
You know, it's
very
finished.
good. Well, like, I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. But 2:58 now, 2 hours 58 minutes. We're almost at 3 hours. DJ, last question: what is your legacy?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's not for me to decide, but I in the grand scale of life, I don't think that my legacy's been defined yet, because I'm still a young man. But
Your
as far
legacy in backyard wrestling.
Well, as far as backyard wrestling goes, I'd like to think that, although at times I could be a shithead and piss people off.
That's true. Yep, 100%.
I like to think that I'm kind of
a faggot. Yeah.
Let me fucking
all right.
Have a moment. And get
All right.
I'd like to think that I'll go down as like a pioneer and one of the sort of like founding members of like WA backyard wrestling. Like, even though XCW was around, like, I kind of consider the formation of UWF.
UWF is still in the same thing. It's still the same thing.
I kind of think...
It might be different years, but it doesn't matter. It's still the same, like, era.
I'd like to think, so my legacy, hopefully, will be a guy who was always willing to help other people out, a guy who was always entertaining and tried to prove people wrong by wrestling with a disability and make the best of the things that I could do well. A guy who helped break the barriers and became one of the first people to transition from the yarding scene as it became known into the pro scene. And kind of just, I'd like to think that I've had like a significant role in sort of what ended up becoming of backyard wrestling in Australia, really, because by the time that ICWS was thriving, even like 6-7 years ago,
the East Coast choked a dick.
There was
they
barely
couldn't fucking handle it. They couldn't keep longevity. Like
there was barely any other
longevity is what WA has. East Coast has nothing. But some great super shows in the mid-2000s.
Look, I love Rusty and everything, and he's my boy, and several others that I'm quite fond of as well.
They can't
over there.
fucking touch us.
Let me just say,
Sorry.
man. Like...
Sorry. They can't touch us.
Fucking East Coast were very good at choreographed gymnastic routines that took place in a ring, set to flashy music, and they pioneered the use of editing software to make a flashy little music video and turn a 20-minute match into 2-3 minutes of very cleanly done and probably well-rehearsed wrestling moves. WA backyard
don't get to
wrestling.
see many of those matches in full on YouTube that are all MVs.
WA backyard wrestling's legacy, conversely, is that we were a true microcosm of the real wrestling industry. We were guys that had longevity doing this as a full-time activity. We evolved and grew as performers and characters. And the quality of the wrestling grew and evolved as we did. And we were guys that actually had a locker room. We had politics. We had a wrestling culture.
No one can touch us, bro.
We didn't sit there and do lockups where our hands were pointed out like this. We did real lockups that looked like men fighting, where we actually would grab each other. And we didn't do crappy punches and really... flashy kicks just to make it look all specky on the MV. We did real fucking...
We don't
fights.
wrestle for the MV. We wrestle for the memories and the moments and what we created.
We wrestled so that we could sit here 10 years down the line and say, remember that show where I wrestled fucking Monnet, and I remember when I was sitting there and he just fucking clobbered me with a kick to the head and I thought he fucking knocked me loopy. That's what we did. We were real wrestlers. We didn't... And I'm not trying to say that...
We're the whole package. We were characters, we had promos, we had storylines, then we had the wrestling. They just had the wrestling. Where were their characters and storylines? Maybe Ruthless Ron might have a storyline here and there or whatever, but it was just matches, and let's have these matches for the MV and
honestly, I was a huge fan
fuck.
of those matches when I was a younger
IYH
kid.
fantastic.
But after I fucking went to the pros, I realized that the true skill and art of being a wrestler is being able to go out there and feel the match and be in the moment and not know what exactly is going to happen until after the match is done.
Like that. Yeah.
So really, I think that our skill level and our abilities surpassed the East Coast long ago. And they can sit there,
and they won't know.
And they can sit there and say, if any of them ever hear this,
they won't.
They know that there are certain, they can sit there and say how great Ozfest was.
Niven is a cocksucker. Niven is a cocksucker. Faggot.
You can say all you want how good Ozfest was, and logistically it was great because it had people from all over the eastern side of the country coming together for one show. But wrestling-wise, you can't touch us because we're people that actually learnt the craft and tried to apply it.
Yeah, Denise Whitehouse or whatever your fucking name is.
In the traditional...
You're a fucking masked wrestler over east that no one fucking knows, and you want to go on the fucking GBYWN epicenter and fucking talk shit about us? Fuck you. You were a nobody in fucking... Niven's Fed, which I can't even... TVW, you're a nobody there. You're a nobody now. You're a fucking loser. You want to talk shit about us. You could never do, ever do what we do. Fuck you, you fucking cunt.
You going to be right to drive, bro?
I'm fine.
Oh, yeah, well, when you see...
Let's end the podcast, DJ.
Well, now that we're kind of having this convo about
we're 3 hours in, bro. Let's end it, okay? Let's end it.
I'm confident that my legacy will be one where people appreciate and respect what I did, and I was proud to be a part of it. And I think that under the leadership of people like you and me, we took WA from being some obscure part of the backyard wrestling culture, and we ended up making it one of the best places in the world to be a backyard wrestler.
You got it, daddy!
Ask Rusty. He said that he's lives in Melbourne. He's seen all the top pro wrestling feds over there. He said our wrestling rivals anything over there.
Nothing was better than what we did, and he was there to witness it. He saw the ladder match at Resolution 2. He wrestled me. He wrestled DJ, and he was blown away about what we did. DJ, thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for catching us up on the final part of your career, whether it was ICWS, whether it was WZWA. What you contributed, what you accomplished is unbelievable. Your final match was a fucking great send-off to see you go off into the sunset with your head held high, because you always put everyone else over. You always made everyone look better. You never complained about putting someone over. You always did your job. You didn't take pills the night before a show and stay in bed all day. You were one of the all-time greats, and that's why you're a Hall of Famer. So thank you for being on the podcast, my brother.
Thank you. It was my... Excuse me. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
And thank you all for listening for 3 hours straight about the final part of Daniel Johnston's career in WZWA. It's been a long run here, but I think we had a fucking good time, DJ.
It was, man. It was a good fucking
informative
podcast.
And we were funny in parts, but also very serious in parts. So thank you to listening for us. Oh, ugh, that's bad. Bad English. Thank you for listening to the GBYWN Australia podcast. I don't know who I'm interviewing next. I'm sure it'll be either a Resolution review show, or I'll actually go down and fucking visit Mykonos, or I'll interview Arthur Aries on Skype. Actually, Acid has messaged me, and he would be keen to go on the podcast once he's got all of his issues sorted out. So we've got a few things.
What about Nick, man? You could get my brother.
I would love to get your
next
brother
time
on.
Nick comes down.
I'd love to. I'd love to also get Dante Daniels on the podcast. I'd like to get some interviews with people that we don't really know that much about. So thank you for listening to the GBYWN Australia podcast. I'm Aston Croyd alongside Daniel Johnston.
Sick.
And we will see you next time on the podcast. Thank you.